Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 339. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensational sensei of the whatnot Segulan and the Duke of You Know.
How's it going, eh?
Jim, on this episode, we're going to be taking a look at Fury of Firestorm 0 and 15. We're also going to take a big look at Death of the Family again. We're going to focus on the main Batman issue 16, but we're also going to hit some of the books we haven't in a while. We hit on things like Nightwing, Red Hood and the Outlaws, Teen Titans. We hit Detective Comics as well. So we wanted to make sure to touch on all of those books as we're kind of taking a look at the whole Bat universe and how they relate to this. So these are some of the titles we haven't really touched on. The Robins. We've been promising that we're going to do that, and we finally got to it. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. Sponsoring us this episode is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, it's the end of the month. This is actually January 31st that I'm recording this ad. And this is the time where they're getting ready to do the switchover for the new deals that are going to be happening in February. So while they're doing that, I want to remind everyone that they are a digital partner from Comixology. And what that means is, and it's actually, I should add that it's Diamond Digital and iVerse as well. So if you're doing any of your digital shopping, 5% of those purchases goes towards DCB Service credit. You can use that to take money off of orders that you're doing from DCB Service. It also means, though, that you can let that credit build up over time and get free books. So it's a really great deal from DCBService.com, especially if you like to do a lot of digital shopping. Do it right through them. You're helping our show sponsor. It doesn't cost you anything more, but gives you something back. So please consider going to RagingBullets.com, clicking on that link, going over to DCBService.com and doing your digital shopping there. Also, be on the lookout over the next week or so for all of the great deals on February's books. So it's just a great chance on those pre-orders to save an amazing amount of money. They've always got amazing specials right on the main page. Over at InStockTrades.com, I don't know how many of you read collect editions. I know a lot of our listeners exclusively shop for trades and hardcovers. Some of them do a hybrid. Some of them will take favorite series and repurchase them. I want to shout out the Justice League hardcover Volume 2, The Villain's Journey. This collects issues 7 through 12 of Jeff Johns and Jim Lee's run. It's 176 pages. This is a $24.99 book regularly. It's 50% off, only $12.49. One of the things I really like about DC's hardcover collections, they come on that really great glossy paper. The artwork just stands out. The color just stands out. It's a really, especially with the Jim Lee art in this, it's really a great book to just get that amazing art experience. And I just wanted to shout that one out as one of the amazing deals. Remember that InStockTrades.com is your trade and hardcover source. Orders of $50 or more give you free shipping, so please consider shopping over there. Remember to go to RagingBullets.com, click on the link, and check out our show sponsors. They're really wonderful people and great friends of the show, and I want to thank them for supporting us, as well as a lot of other podcasts out there. Mr. Sensei, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plot lines, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on the show. So, if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Let's talk some comics.
Be a good boy, finish your homework, and be in bed by 9. And hey, please tell the big man I said hello.
Jim, we're going to have a Death of the Family discussion again, and I wanted to kick off with some listener messages from Facebook. I set up a thread on there, and I wanted to kind of just get people's thoughts. And this one's from Jared Cardos. Here's some questions. I don't know if these are going to be too negative for the show, but I think you might get some interesting conversation about this. Number one, he says, I've read a fair amount of complaints saying that the gore that we see, from all the animal violence to the human tapestry, is too much for a regular Batman comic. Do you think this is a fair assessment? What do you think about the gore in the regular Batman comic? Is it too much?
No, not for me. Yeah, I think we're getting, it's a good tool usage to show just how nasty the Joker is now. This is, kicking the Joker up to 11, and we need to, I think it's not being just used as shock and awe. It's actually being used as part of the storytelling. And it's, kind of a glimpse into his soul and into who he is and whatnot. So it's not just oh, let me be shocking. Oh, let me do this animal massacre. Oh, let me do this. Oh, I really think it's an actual functional part of the story. And I don't want to say it wouldn't be as good without it, but it is a crucial part of it that, for me, it's something that, fits and really adds to my enjoyment of the story.
Yeah, and I think, this has been covered many, many times on many podcasts, including our own. We've talked about this. The need for all ages material versus what's in the current run comics and what audience it's catering to. In this particular case, one of the things that, like the tapestry, the human tapestry, what would have been too much is if they showed us creating the human tapestry. Like, I don't need to see that. I think it was enough to show us the tapestry and then to, just quickly give, these are living people. That's enough. I don't need to see the doll man guy creating them. That would be too far for me. The horse, it was one panel of the horse running through, and that's like all I need to see. So I mean, I think that they're taking it's a fine line and a fine balance. I think you go too far when you get really excessively gory. I didn't need to see human entrails being put together in order to make the tapestry. It was enough for them to just give me that image from the description. If I'm making sense, I think that there is a line there that they carefully are dancing. And I think I'm enjoying it because I think it's a creepy story. And I like horror movies. I like horror stories. Do I think every Batman comic should be like this? No. I think this particular story is fitting for that. I don't think the gore was too much for this particular story. I think that they made very good choices as far as how far to take it and where to keep that line. Is it something I'd give little kids? No. It's not written for little kids, though.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I will co-sign your sentiment on, had they shown the building of the tapestry, that probably would have been too much. That they are dancing on the line, and maybe they're skating across it. It's I think it's a lot depending on personal taste, but I think exactly what you said. They are really doing it, but they're not going overboard with it, to my sensibilities. Other people will completely disagree with me, and to be honest, I'm not even going to argue with anybody because it is a lot of personal choice on what you think is too far. What do you think is a good part of the story? What do you think, they didn't really need that. That's a little bit over the top. Do you think that the collapse of Dick's amusement mile before it even began was too early to have any real impact? I personally felt more annoyed than anything else. Yeah, my take on this is, does this mean that it's done? I don't know that it is. I mean, first of all, the idea is for us to be under the impression that the Joker knows, potentially, and to show that these characters would think the Joker knows who they are. When we talk about the Nightwing issue, and we kind of talk cover to cover about it, I think we can get into, some real clues there in my mind that show that the Joker doesn't know. But as far as the whole amusement mile thing goes, I don't know that means that he can't build it. I mean, I don't know that the people are dead because we've seen it established in Teen Titans that they can be restored. Or was it Red Hood? It might have been Red Hood. We just saw recently that they can be restored. So I don't know that necessarily we're seeing the end of it. That's just my kind of take on it. Do you? I mean, I guess, are you assuming it's a done issue? Or, because you might see it differently than I do. No, I think Dick can rebuild it. He can, part of his strength of his character is he was that beacon of light. He was that champion. He was, he is that hero who doesn't say die, who doesn't lay down. And I think we're going to see Dick Grayson say, okay, I've been bloodied here. This is a disaster, what he did to me. Joker's not going to win. I'm bringing this back. And I don't know exactly how many of the people are dead, because I think there's going to be a pretty high body count, which will affect his personality and his outlook on life, just because of these people who are close to him are dead. But I think in the end, we're going to get Dick Grayson being Dick Grayson. He's not going to be someone who gives into the pain, who gives into the darkness. He's going to rise up. And I'm really looking forward to the future Nightwing issues, just for that fact of I'm waiting for the rally. I'm waiting for the rebuilding and rebirth.
Between the issues of Batman and Nightwing, we find that the Joker was somehow able to dig up every previous Haley Circus member and dress them in costumes, as well as be able to take down the rest of the Bat family in the few hours at most it took Batman to go through the maze. Is it just me, or does that timing really bend your suspension of disbelief? I don't know where he's getting the few hours time frame from, because every issue that I've been reading refers to and references days. You know, I mean, like the day before. They haven't pinned down an actual timeline. I don't want them to. And and maybe you're reading it differently than I am, Jim. I mean, there's been specific comics, ones we're going to talk about in this episode, where it talked about this day and then the next day. And then, so I mean, there's multiple days passage. I took the whole Haley Circus thing, first of all, not just to be the Joker. The Joker has been since the start of this enlisting help. I'm taking this as a storyline that takes place over multiple weeks. At the very least, a week, but I'm taking it to be longer than that, in the sense that I think there was a lot of things going on before we actually saw the Joker appear. A lot of the backstory that we're seeing in this, in like Detective, and in particular in Batman, is referencing the Joker planning all this behind the scenes. Arkham, with the guards. Guards were being chosen in that area that specifically either had no family to speak of so they wouldn't be missed, or they had families and they were kept quiet. And we've seen that reference. So this is something that has been hatching and pulled together behind the scenes, not just the Arkham end of it, but I'm assuming everything that he's been doing has been hatched. I've never seen anything that leads me to believe all this happened in a few hours. So I don't know where he's getting that from, because I haven't seen that time frame reference. But did you, Jim, we haven't had the discussion about this. Are you seeing that differently?
Oh, no, we're kind of seeing it on the same page there. This is showing the Joker, being above and beyond what he did before. I'm thinking it's even longer than weeks. I'm thinking months. He's been planning this and laying down the groundwork since he first disappeared. Yeah. And it's the groundwork he laid from day one of being the Joker to, with the manipulation of the guards at Arkham, just everything he's doing, all the different people he's pulling in who are doing stuff out of pure fear of the Joker. He's set up this reputation very justifiably that he is an absolute psychopath who will do anything, to your family, to your loved ones, to the remote stranger in your name, just to get you to do what he wants. And it's not above and beyond rational thought thinking he would have other people dig up the bodies, and they've been probably sitting in a warehouse somewhere, in costume, waiting for him to spring his little trap. I think that, for me, that scene just showed the level of commitment, the level of just planning and preparation that he had in this. I really kind of it was one of those whoa kind of moments in thinking, what is the Joker behind it? How long has he been planning this thing?
And when did he pull in people like the Penguin in relation to the events? When did he pull in Two-Face? When did he pull in the Riddler? And what are the thugs? We've seen that there's gangs of people out there working with the Joker. Not to mention the ones that he's influenced on the street, causing chaos. I think things that are going on in Detective Comics, where Batman's going up against gangs that have been inspired by the Joker, are things that are showing that this storyline is taking a real long time to play out, because Batman is doing that while in the midst of trying to find clues and to solve this. So my opinion is certain things that happen in Batman, for example, you'll see him start investigating the case, and then have an interlude and then go on to the next thing. There's a lot of things that can be happening in between there, and you don't know how much time has passed in between, because there's not a lot of time reference there, and I like that. I think they need to be vague with that. I think to spell it out too much, you run yourself into a lot of what he's saying, where you trap yourself and paint yourself into a corner. I'm not seeing that time reference. I'm seeing days referenced a lot of times, but even that is vague in its presentation, and I think that's really important that they do that, because when you've got this many books involved and this many characters, you need to allow, and I think fans, if you sat down there and really, we can all geek out and do this, you can make up your own timeline for this, and I think it's possible for you to reference that, maybe what he did to Red Robin would take place before or after what he did to Dick Grayson, and, same thing with Batgirl. But it's really clear at the end of these issues where they're starting to converge and where they're all in the same place. You know, with that that party tray that he's going around, which I'm scared. We'll talk about that when we get to it, because that shows up multiple times. So I don't know that I personally feel like that there's a timeline that's been spelled out, but I definitely think it's way more than a few hours. Yeah. And to even think it's a few hours, it wouldn't. If they said a few hours later, now I would agree with him, and I would be outraged, because I'm like, you're going to try to pretend that happened in a few hours? There's no way that's possible. I'm pretty open to suspending my disbelief, obviously, from this conversation. But, once you pin it into that corner, and I think is clever storytelling when you got this much crossover going on, to be a little bit more vague about the timelines, to let people fill that in themselves. But a few hours is definitely not what I'm thinking this is by any stretch. And he mentions if you get to let me correct myself about one thing. I said Doll Man or whatever his name was. It's Doll House, right? Isn't that the name of the one that took off the face? Did I get the right name? You know, the guy who cut off the Joker's face?
Yeah.
Is that Doll House or Doll something? We'll talk about it when we get to that, because when we get to we're going to talk about Batman 16, and the Joker directly references him with the tapestry, so I'll get the name. It's not Doll Man, because that's the guy from the Freedom Fighters, and it's not one of the Freedom Fighters that did this.
Doll Maker.
Doll Maker. Thank you. I knew that Doll Man obviously wasn't it. If you get to Detective with the surprise marriage between Ivy and Clayface, a pairing I never thought of before but is rather ingenious, did anyone else feel a little disappointed that their ceremony was pretty much a Vegas-style wedding with no one else around? I would think if two of the Batman rogues got hitched, there would be a mass breakout at Arkham and they'd invade an entire church and reception hall for just such an occasion. I take it as, look what's going on. Like, there's way too much going on for any of them. Like, a lot of them are busy.
I took it that it all occurred in his head, that there never was even a ceremony.
Oh, good point.
That's how I read all that it never even occurred. She just, it was her influencing him, using the little plants and whatnot, and just, it never actually happened. There was no ceremony.
Oh, you're right. It's a dream sequence. Yeah. It's her whole gimmick. Yeah. It's what happens when she kisses somebody. No, I'm with you. Actually, I was kind of thinking the way he was, too. I wasn't thinking like I was upset about it, but I was more in line with him, thinking that it actually happened. And now that you explained it that way, you're right. That's what happened. It was her powers. This is what she does. They didn't get married at all, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm with you. All right. You sold me on that one. This is from Michael. Did you hear the Kyle Higgins interview on Fat Man on Batman? And what's your opinion of Emperor Penguin? And do you think he'll be around long? I have actually heard the Kyle Higgins interview on Fat Man on Batman. Actually, one of our listeners mentioned, I regularly download Kevin Smith's podcasts. One of the things when you do podcasts, a lot of times it's hard to keep up with all of the podcasts you want to listen to. We've got a lot of great friends of the show who are podcasters, and I try to do a sampling of their episodes, try to listen to I'd like to listen to all of them, so I try genuinely to do that, but I also am a huge Kevin Smith fan. I'm also a Howard Stern fan, so I try to stay up with like all of that material, and it's just my time frame doesn't allow for it. But that one, like a Kyle Higgins interview, I'm a big fan of Kyle Higgins. I think his Deathstroke work was terrific. His work on Nightwing is mind-blowingly cool. So yeah, I definitely listened to the interview. It was really great. Emperor Penguin for me, it's real interesting. I like the Emperor Penguin story, and let me explain why. Because it's explaining that the Penguin's been taken out of the game. This is a guy who has been a lackey, nothing but. But he's been a lackey that's been given so many positions, he's smart. He's learned from the master. And if anything, he's also learned Penguin's weaknesses. So because of that, he's seen an opportunity to place himself in a position of power. And hopefully to not make the same mistakes the Penguin has while using the strengths of the Penguin. And I think it's an interesting... I would not want to be him when the Penguin comes back. I think we all are going to know what's going to happen to this guy. He's pretty much so toast. But he's taking advantage. He's an opportunist who's taking advantage of a situation for his one shot at lateral movement in a city where it's very hard to do this. So I like the whole gimmick because he realizes that, like, with the Joker doing this, there is a real good possibility the Penguin may not return or may not return for quite a long time. So he might as well make the money he can during this time, and then when the Penguin returns, he can pull the old, "Hey, boss, I kept things running for you," right? He could pull. I guess he could pull that or he could do the crazy thing, which is what I think ultimately he's going to do. He's going to try to take out the Penguin. And that's not going to play out well for him. I want to see it. To me, the only way that's going to work, though, is if they do further development of his character and this storyline with him. You know, I mean, we're going to want to see the payoff if you build him up more than he already is. So I think it's an interesting direction. That's my take on it, though. Do you like it, or is it kind of like you're not your cup of tea, or what are you thinking of it?
I am so looking forward to the Penguin's return because just the god-awful, horrific things he's going to do to that man has, it's that sick, twisted humor I have sometimes that just the level of suffering he is going to put that man through. I want to see that. That's one where I hope they don't back off, just because the Penguin, when he gets even with somebody, it's not just a simple, I'm going to kill you. It goes beyond death, and it's that when you have a well-written Penguin, when you have a well-written character like that, you get some really great stories. So I'm looking forward to that. So in the process, I'm glad we're getting this type of character who isn't just some stupid flunky. He's trying to go beyond just a simple thug. He's trying to rise up in the criminal organization. We're going to see what happens when you try to, double cross or take over the Penguin. And I don't think he's going to try that boss. I was just keeping the seat warm for you story. No, I think he's going to make a move on the Penguin. I think he's trying to build up his defenses, trying to get his people in line right now. And I think when the real deal comes back, we're going to see all these people that he's got in line take one step back, say, Penguin, we're just, placating to this idiot until you came back. Welcome back, boss. Do you want us to kill him for you?
Yeah. And I do think that. I was just throwing out there that, he could go that route. I'm not saying that I really think he's going to do that, because I really don't think he's going to do that.
Yeah.
You and I are, I think, a lot more in sync on what we actually think is going to happen with this guy. Mark mentioned that it's announced that the Young Justice show was canceled tonight, and it's an amazing show, and I'm sad to see it go. And I agree with him. Have you been watching that I know you saw the first round of it. Have you been watching the Young Justice Invasion?
Yeah, I got caught up, and been watching that, and I'm very sad to see it go because, again, it's a cool cartoon that younger people can watch this, but people my age can enjoy it. It's this is a great cartoon, a great example of what they can do with a cartoon. I'm very sad to see it go.
I like the 2 seasons have been like complete arcs. And Invasion was after the first season, it was a jump forward, but it took elements of what was going on the first season. So I hope we get a nice wrap up to the show. The storyline gets a nice close, and this feeling like the characters are still going on, because that's really what I want to see. But I've loved the amount of characters they've brought in to the show, and how well they've handled them, both the adults, the Justice League characters, and the teens. And the fact that they've done like the 3 generations, where they've got the older teens, which would have been the Titans back in the old days, and the new generation of Young Justice characters along with the Justice League. I like the legacy aspect of the show. It's something that I've always liked about the DC universe, so I'm really glad that they brought them in. And it's if you haven't watched the cartoon, don't dismiss it because it's a cartoon. The depth of storytelling there is just really great. My hope is, I know there's a Batman cartoon that's on the pike that's coming down. I hope that we get another cartoon to fill. It seems like great having that hour block. So I'm hoping when all is said and done that they have another hour block devoted to that. And I hope they keep the shorts, because I really like the shorts. The Amethyst one lately I've been really enjoying that. But also that anime style of Batman with Bane and Catwoman, I thought has been tremendously cool.
Yeah, they've done some really neat stuff with just the overall shorts with just the DC Nation block, and they need to keep that going. And I would love to see them, if they're going to bring a Batman in, let's bring in another Superman, let's bring in characters that let's bring in a Justice League maybe or something. I don't know. For me it was just the dynamic of the number of characters they've added, and just not even just characters that everybody knows. They introduce new characters to the general population, and I thought that was a good move on their part to show, hey, this is a very broad universe. We have a lot to pull from. Let's pull some of the little known characters. Let's pull the people that nobody's ever really heard of. Here they are. Boom. And yeah, it's. I hope they replace it with something that can continue doing that.
This one's from Jared, and it's our last one on this, and we'll get to some voicemails later in the show. Michael reminded me of another question. Do you think the Emperor Penguin is a good idea for a character? Personally, I thought that seems like a lazy way to make a new villain, especially for a writer who I know can do something more creative from his work on Chew. And I honestly can't take a villain named Emperor Penguin seriously. Granted, it probably is not as ridiculous as a Riddler or something, but hey, I never said I wasn't biased. See, my take on this is he's taking over the Penguin's empire. This is a name branding. And I don't know what else you would call him. Like, it makes sense. He called himself Emperor Penguin because he's trying to kind of take over in the Cobblepot name. But here's the thing. Aside from, like, a Penguin's inner circle, Penguin's probably an enigma to the general public and to a lot of the thug community, in the sense that they know of the Penguin. But how many of them have actually met the Penguin? So in this case, you've got a guy who has been likely to be as visible, if not more visible, to a lot of people than the Penguin was. So now he's trying to take over, instead of he's not creating his own new empire, he's taking advantage of a situation to take over the Penguin's empire. And he's saying it's his now. I'm Emperor Penguin. I'm the guy. This is my empire. And he's really taking over all that himself. So I don't know what else you would call him. And I like the idea because it shows that in the midst of what the Joker's doing, opportunists who see an opportunity, this is probably something this guy never considered something that he was going to have happen. He was probably destined to always be the lackey. And he's taking the risk and the gamble now that he can take over this empire. He's got enough of an ego in himself to say, hey, this is my chance. This is my opportunity. And if I can get enough people believing in me and siding with me. The problem is he's got to remember these fickle people that are siding with him because of intimidation will turn on him like crazy when the Penguin comes back. I think we're going to have a war, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. That's myself. I like this story. I mean, I'm giddy to see the Penguin come after this guy. So that's a win. And I want to see more development of it. So is it where, I don't want the Penguin to come back next issue. I would like to see a little bit more development of this and then lead up to a battle between the two. So that's kind of my take on it. I don't know. What do you think it was a lazy thing to create?
No. You and I we're actually firing on the same page here again. It was a good usage of the Penguin. It was a good usage of his legacy. It's, branding. It's kind of, brand recognition. And just the comment you made about the everyday thug have never met, Oswald Cobblepot. They only know the Penguin. So they get some guy who's calling himself Emperor Penguin. Their first thought is going to be, okay, this guy is associated with the Penguin. I don't want to mess with this guy. He's running Penguin's operation. They're probably thinking, hey, no one would be stupid enough to call themselves Penguin, any type of Penguin in Gotham if he didn't have the authorization from Cobblepot. So I better I better not take my chances. I better do what this guy says. So I think it was a good usage of it. And again, it is adding, as soon as he announced his name was Emperor Penguin, as soon as he announced what he was doing, I was very happy. I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. Because I immediately started thinking, what's going to happen when the Penguin comes back? What is he going to do to this guy, and how is it going to play out? And I agree with you on, I want a nice, long, slow build and a nice, painful experience for this guy. And just, I want to see the true level of what the Penguin does to people. Because, this has been just and it's a side story. It's another part of the main big Bat family, but that's the coolness of Bat titles. That's the coolness of a writer who understands these characters, who knows the different layers and levels of them. This is a really, I am very excited to see this story play out, and I wanted to take his time, tell the story the way he wants to.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what it is? I want to see what makes this guy different than the Penguin.
Yeah.
And
you got to get the contrast.
Yeah, and we haven't gotten enough of that yet. It's been a nice start. Jim, let's talk first about Batman 16. I know we're going to do Firestorm, but I kind of want to save that towards the end because we've already started this discussion about Batman. I think we just need to go here. So it's Batman 16. Scott Snyder's the writer, Greg Capullo on pencils, Jonathan Glapian on inks, FCO Placencia on colors, Richard Starkings in comic craft, Jimmy Betancourt on lettering. And we've got Batman created by Bob Kane, Katie Kubert, assistant editor or associate editor, Mike Martz, editor, Capullo and Placencia on the cover, Alex Garner on the variant cover. And I got to be honest with you, this book, I don't remember a time in a long, long time where it's been Batman, Batman, Batman for me on this level, where it's hitting on this many cylinders. I think the quality of a lot of the work that's being published throughout the New 52, I think if you're a Green Lantern fan, you got to be giddy right now. Superman fans got to be giddy right now. Fans of JSA and Earth 2 got to be giddy right now. For me, Batman's been my guy that brought me to the dance. To be getting this every month, to be drooling over this every month, to be sitting on the edge of my seat wondering where this is going to go. We don't know what's going on with Alfred. We don't know. We have been given the same visual of his eyes being burnt. I'm really, and I don't know what to feel about this. I'm worried about what's underneath that doggone platter. And I don't think it's that, but this is how you build suspense. This is how you keep people on the edge of their seats. There were points in time where I've been convinced the Joker didn't know. There's been times where I've been like, well, maybe he does know. And then I've been back and forth again. So I can see the people on the other side of it that are thinking, I'm obviously on recent comments, and they've actually been reinforced for me in my reading. I'm convinced the Joker doesn't really know and that he's playing everybody. If I'm wrong on that, I'm fine with that. I don't mind being slapped. Like, if he pulls up the tray, I know you're Bruce Wayne. I'm fine with that. That's cool. The only reason why I don't think that's going to be what's under there, he showed the other villains, and I don't think that's his game. He showed Cobblepot, he showed Two-Face, and he showed the Riddler. When he did that, I'm like, there's nothing under there. There could be something Alfred related, but there's nothing under there that would give the identity of Batman. Because I don't think the point of this is to make the identity of Batman public to everybody. The idea is for the Joker to play his joke. And that doesn't involve the other villains. He wouldn't give them that. Because that would be attacking his king in a way that I don't think he wants to do. Yeah. So I think his game that he's playing here, I'm more and more convinced that he really doesn't know. He's just using his manipulative skills in a way that's fantastic. But my original point of that is, I'm gripped to this storyline. I don't care if I'm right or wrong. This is one where I don't care if everybody afterwards is able to go, nah, you were totally off base. The Joker knew all along. Fine. Because I'm enjoying this ride immensely. And I think I'm not alone there, and people are saying, I don't really care if I'm right or wrong or somewhere in the middle. I want to know. I'm gripped by this. I care enough to speculate. And that's, to me, the sign of a great storyline is when you care enough to passionately speculate. Where are you at?
Oh, I am securely and soundly confused. No, I am in the camp that Joker does not know the specifics. I'm of the camp that he's saying, I know who you are. He is talking more, I know your character, I know your personality, I know what you're going to do, how you're going to react. Not, I know you're Bruce Wayne, I know you're Dick Grayson, I know you're Tim Drake, etc. Yeah, I think that part of it, the level of it, I don't think he has that knowledge. And again, I'm with you that if they change around and he shows, he opens up the tray and says, "Hi, Bruce," I would be okay. He really knew who he was already. And that, again, it'll open up the next story and what's going to happen next. Where does this go? Do you want to throw out? Because I got a couple theories. What's underneath, what's in the box? I got a couple theories on what's underneath that tray.
Go for it. I don't honestly, I think if there's something passionate we want to start talking about, we might as well just go there, because I don't know how we're going to be able to hold off going to that. I have some ideas, but they're very vague for me. You've probably fleshed this out more than I
have 3 solid ideas.
Okay.
Now, I'll be honest with you, all 3 of them I'm not going to passionately defend just because these are ideas that I have, but this is where I'm going. First off, I think the popular answer is he's going to lift up that tray and we're going to see Alfred's head. It's, and I hate to see that. I would hate to see the death of Alfred because Alfred's such a great character, but that's one solid possibility. Now, the reason behind my thought that it could be Alfred is Joker kept saying how Alfred's got a big role at the dinner. Well, what's bigger role than being dinner itself? And Alfred's got to do some serving at the dinner. Yeah, he has to be served. So those are my play on why I was thinking Alfred. Plus, that'd be a really huge shock and awe and affect the Bat family forever if Alfred's dead. Now, the flip side why I say it may not be Alfred was the reaction by Cobblepot and Two-Face. Those 2, yeah, it would be shocking to see a severed head on a tray, but for those guys, they wouldn't have as big a reaction for Alfred as they would anybody else. Because, one, I don't know if they completely know Alfred is Bruce Wayne's butler, or they would just see him as another dead body. They would just see another death by the Joker. So the fact they have that, whoa, look on their face tells me it's maybe somebody other than Alfred, which, again, has me feeling very good because I don't want to lose Alfred. So that kicked me into thinking, who could it possibly be that's in the tray? Who would have a shock and awe effect on those 2? And the first name that popped in my head was Bruce Wayne. What if that's the head of Bruce Wayne? Now you're saying, how can it be the head of Bruce Wayne? Bruce Wayne's Batman. He's very much alive. Well, there's somebody out there who has Bruce Wayne's face. Somebody who pretended to be Bruce Wayne for a while. I'm talking Tommy, Hush. What if the Joker picked up Hush, thinking it's Bruce Wayne, lopped off the head, or maybe he knows it's not. Maybe he knows it's a fake of Bruce Wayne, and he's doing it as a giant joke. That would definitely get a big shock and awe from Two-Face and Penguin seeing Bruce Wayne's head on the tray. And again, it could be another nice little dig on Batman, saying, "Okay, here's your benefactor who's now dead." Boom. Now, my third option, and this is the one that's going to have people saying, "What? What if it's the Joker's head? What if we're seeing not the quote-unquote original / real Joker? What if this is somebody else who is disguised or pretending or has assumed the identity of the Joker?" And again, I've got a theory on a person that it could possibly be, if that were the story they were going down. It could be somebody who does actually know the Bruce Wayne secret, who does know the whole history and who is Batman and whatnot. That, again, we're going back to Tommy, going back to Hush. What if the reason he wanted his face cut off was because it was a reminder of who he was and all the past and all the reasoning behind it, and the fact that he's had that massive plastic surgery done, he can have the face removed. It's nothing new to him.
Or what if he killed Hush to protect the secret?
Right. And it could definitely also be another. There could be, part of me is thinking the fact there is a reason why we haven't seen Hush, or he hasn't been a major player in any story since the Rebirth. I'm thinking, this could be how they bring back Hush, which, again, I'm not 100% like, oh, that'd be wonderful because Hush was such a great villain. I would hate to lose him. But, these are just possibilities that I'm throwing out there. Ideas. I'm thinking, what if it's this? What if it's that?
You know what would be the most shocking thing? What if it's a pheasant? Like, it's a nice dinner. It's just genuinely a nice dinner.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think that would be the most. I think that'd be the most shocking thing.
That could very easily fit the Joker because that's the Joker. He's gonna do that little goofy thing. We're not gonna know until we actually see what's underneath that. And I'm very excited for it.
I'm the most worried that it's Alfred. I'm also worried about Lucius Fox. I'm worried about Jim Gordon. I think the funny part is I think Alfred has the biggest target, but I think part of that is to swerve us, make us think that. I think Alfred's going to definitely have scars from this if he survives. I'm very, very worried about direction-wise. Because I don't consider Alfred expendable, but then to do that and to put him in that position, there's a certain shock value to the whole thing. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. I really don't know what they're going to do.
Well, with Gordon, because Gordon was one of the people I was throwing in there as a possibility as well, but we see him in this issue alive and well. So whoever's in that, underneath the dome, he is already dead. So that was the thing that cleared me on Gordon.
Oh yeah, good point.
So because I did think that as well, because part of the thing I was thinking with Gordon is we saw him in the very beginning when Joker got his face, and then we really haven't seen him since. He's been dealing with the crazies, dealing with the situation. Well, we haven't actually physically seen him. He hasn't been on paper, so I'm like, okay, Gordon could possibly be a target as well. Gordon could be, but
where do we see
this issue?
Where do we see Gordon in this issue? We saw Clayface as Gordon. Where do we see Gordon though?
When he's going up the stairway.
Yeah, and that's Clayface.
That's Clayface? I thought that was...
Yeah, when that's Far Enough Batman, and when he grabs the wrist and arm, that's Clayface. That's not Gordon. I don't think it... And let me clarify for the record, though. I don't think it's Gordon. I don't think he's going to open that up and it's going to be Gordon. So regardless of what you're saying, I actually agree with you. Even though that's not Gordon, I agree with you that Gordon's alive and well. I guess I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have a sound theory on what's underneath that tray. My worry is that it's related to Alfred. And that's all my head's been thinking, to be 100% honest with you, is that because Alfred has been so hidden from us, I'm very worried about what's under that tray. So Alfred is kind of my biggest worry out of the whole thing. Whether it's Alfred's head or his eyes or what's going on there, I really don't know. And I'm not saying I'm 100% sold that it's Alfred or anything relating to Alfred, but they've sure gone out of their way to convince me that Alfred's in danger in this. And I can't remember the last time I read a story where I was deathly afraid for a character the way I am Alfred in this storyline. And he's the one guy I'm probably the most worried about in this storyline is Alfred.
Yeah, and you are correct, sir. I am... that is Clayface. I completely misread. I took it as two different scenes in the stairway that he first was up against Gordon, then he ran into Clayface. It didn't... that was a brain fart on my part.
Well, no, but you bring an interesting point, though, and I actually agree with you. I don't think it's Jim Gordon, so we're in agreement there. Well, that was a minor thing. Actually, and to clarify this, the first time I read through the storyline, I thought that was Gordon, too. So I'm not going to throw you under the bus there. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Because when he twists the arm, that's when he becomes Clayface. And the way that the sequence transitioned that way, I get where you got that. But regardless, I think Jim Gordon's safe. I really do. God, I hope he is. I'm not worried about him the way I am Alfred.
I'm actually Gordon's now on the block for me. I'm thinking he could be it could be his head underneath the tray.
So I don't know.
My main thing that cleared Gordon was the fact that I thought he was alive in this sequence. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, there's now a fourth possibility for me as who it could be. And again, Gordon would be another one who would get the reaction out of Two-Face and Penguin. They would really react if they saw Gordon's head there. And Gordon hasn't had a huge part in this story except for at the very beginning. The very beginning, he's got this major mega part in the whole Death of the Family story, and then he kind of just disappears. He's not completely solid around. Same thing, and it's the same reason why I think Alfred is there, because Alfred had that solid part, and then you don't know where it is. It's the mystery of where is this person? Are they still alive? So yeah, Gordon's definitely got a target on it. Again, another character I don't want to die, but yeah, and I think that's the neat part of this whole story is there's a very good chance somebody's going to die. Somebody big, somebody known, a main character is going to be dead when this is all said and when this is over with. We're going to be down one major Gothamite. And
do they have to be dead though? Could they be maimed? Could there be some major injury? I mean, I guess to me, it's far more interesting. I think the death thing, I guess I wouldn't have an issue with it going there in this storyline because it's sick and twisted. But to me, it's far more, from a storytelling standpoint, useful to have the character not be dead. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I mean, I guess here's what I'm looking at. If you look at the classic Killing Joke storyline, who would have thought that what he did to Barbara Gordon at the time would have led to Oracle and the years of great storytelling we got from that. That still pays off today in the Batgirl book. So that's a storyline that had this resonating effect for what the Joker did to Barbara. I guess to me, what he's already done to Alfred, far more interesting for Alfred to be alive, for there to be some issue, with his eyes or whatever that he has to deal with. That leads to some interesting storytelling. Of course, the death of a major character in this will also lead to a ton of storytelling because it's going to cause a major I guess giving a nod to what you're saying, that would have a resonation throughout the Bat books and the universe in general. So I don't know. I've never been this intensely worried about people in a book before. Alfred's my biggest worry, though.
Yeah, Alfred's the big fear right now. And they could just get away with just blinding him and maiming him and doing god-awful, horrific things to him. And it would still have a oh my God, impact on the story. But in my head, I have that bad feeling, in my gut that someone's dead. And it's all the main signs are pointing towards Alfred. So I'm hoping for a swerve, but when it comes to a swerve, I'm hoping it's not Gordon, it's the swerve, because that would be just as painful to me if Alfred goes, because Gordon's such a great character. But then again, I start thinking of how the story, other characters' stories will advance and change, and what'll happen in Gotham, what'll happen to the supporting cast if Jim Gordon's dead. And there's some huge possibilities of some really great stories. The aftermath of death of the family is going to be as epic as the actual story itself.
And that's great. When you do a storyline and it has lasting impact, that's terrific. And it's interesting. And I'm gripped and curious to see what the next year is going to bring for the Batman books. To talk about the passage of time, with this Arkham Asylum, there's always been opportunities where they've shown us, like when they're dancing, help us, please, we've been dancing for days. And Batman references again the idea that the men in the cells, the guards that have been used for this, are guards with no families that will not be missed aside from a few excuses. That was how the Joker took over this place. And that hasn't been just referenced in this issue. That's been referenced multiple times with relation to this particular area. So the time passage showing the Joker planning and setting this up has been established in this. And it's actually one of the reasons why I keep noting it. I thought it's been a strength of this story is showing that this is not something that the Joker came in and did on a whim. This isn't like on Tuesday the Joker rolled into town and on Wednesday he did all this. It just didn't happen that way, and I like that. Because to me, the Joker has been one of those characters that sometimes he's done so cartoony that, it's hard to believe he's really an enemy of the Batman on the level that he's supposed to be. This storyline really establishes him as, first of all, the psychopath we always know him to be, and even when he's cartoony, you always get that aspect of him. But also that he's got a brilliantly twisted mind. Not that I admire him. I don't mean it that way at all, not by any stretch. But what I mean is there's nothing scarier than a brilliant, crazy person. I'll give a great example in real life, Charles Manson. Charles Manson is brilliant. He's nuts. He's brilliant. I don't admire him in any way, shape, or form, a horrid man for everything that he did. But I think, to me, there's something creepier about somebody who's intelligent, who's crazy.
Yeah.
Because, that they think through things and they plan things. And you can't, when it's somebody who's off kilter, like the Joker is in this, you can't, how do you plan for that? How do you think through that? Like, Batman knows him for years, and we're seeing Batman tell everybody, you got to understand, I know this guy. And if there's one guy in this book who I believe knows the Joker well enough, it's Batman. He's been right. Like, when he shows up here, everything he's doing is Batman reacting to his known enemy. And it's why I'm more and more convinced as the storyline's been going on that Batman's moves in this, trying to keep his team out of this, was the right call. Because he saw what the Joker was doing. And he was right. That's the way I'm taking this. I don't think, he realized just how far the Joker's plan had gone, but he foresaw everything that the Joker's doing. He saw the threat to his team. He knew that the family was being attacked. And he knew that the Joker was full of it in what he was saying. That was the one thing. He was taking all of this very seriously. He wasn't brushing it under the carpet. And he was telling, you've got to let me handle this. And he was right. Like, before I thought he was wrong not bringing the team in. Now I see that he was right. And I don't know that... In the one area I think he's wrong is I think he should have come up with a better way to kind of protect everybody. A better plan to protect everybody. I think he was so focused on getting the Joker that, he didn't realize that his team was not going to just sit around and twiddle their thumbs. They never do. Like, what Robin ever does that? Right?
Yeah, oh, yeah. It's funny because I was in the camp of... I've always been in the camp of call for backup. I've been, of team dynamic. And it's... As the story is going on, I do... kind of agree with what you're saying, that Bruce was handling it correctly where it was, keeping the team out of it. But part of me still holds on to the fact that had he been a little bit more open, had he been a little bit more open dialogue as to what he's doing and why he's doing it, maybe the team wouldn't have gone into traps. Maybe if he had used them gave them actual... more solid assignments as to, instead of just stay out of this, going, okay, here's what I need you to do, here's what I need you to do, here's what I need you to do, maybe that would have changed stuff. And
you know what?
I think they would have been better off.
I'm going to disagree with you. First of all, I agree with you that he should have been more open with them because I don't think it would have mattered. I guess the point is, and I think I think his thinking was right. I guess let me put it to you that way. I don't know that, I think he was damned if you do, damned if you don't in this particular situation. Because if he told them, he would have sent them out on missions and the Joker would have pulled them from their missions. I think he saw that. I don't think I think what he didn't realize is that, or maybe he did realize it, that there was... He was going to try and keep them out of the whole thing and safe and protected from the whole thing, and that just wasn't going to happen because the Joker was going to go after them anyway. That's where the storyline's interesting. I guess I'm not disagreeing with you because when you're saying your points, I'm like saying, well, Jim's right. I agree with him on that, and I was thinking that way too, and I kind of still do. But then I see the other side of it. I'm like, there's no way Batman could have won on that one. The Joker had this plan to get all of them. He was going to get all of them no matter what Batman did. He had them scouted.
Yeah.
And in that case, when you scout people in Gotham, Batman sends them on a mission. The missions that Batman's going to send them on are going to be for the purpose of tracking down the Joker. The Joker's going to capture him there. It's just there's a no-win situation.
Well, also, think about it. Joker not only scouted them in Gotham, he knew them.
Yeah.
He knew how the Teen Titans were going to react. He knew how, the Red Hood and his full crew. He knew all that stuff. He knew beyond just the single level of, okay, this is their base of operation. This is who they are. He went one step beyond that. So even if, and I'm going to contradict something I said before, that even if Bruce gave the assignments, had he done that, I think the Joker would have been prepared for that, and he would have been able to use that against them.
Did Batman punch a horse then ride it? Did I see that right?
I read it. Hey, you know what? He took command of that animal. He told him who's the boss.
Admittedly, in spite of everything that's going on, it's remarkably calm after that.
You know what? Think about it. It worked in Conan. It's worked in Blazing Saddles. If you're strong enough and powerful enough to hit a horse so that he feels it, guess what? He's gonna, he's gonna start listening to you.
My wife's parents have a farm. I can imagine going out to the farm and, I rode horses as a kid. Now, when I say I rode horses as a kid, my dad was kind enough to give us horseback riding lessons. I had a lot of fun, but it was in a barn where we had people who, raised the horses. They were there with us, guiding us. I fell off a couple of times, stuff like that. I'm not I'm not the Lone Ranger. You're not going to see me go and ride off into the sunset or anything like that. You're lucky if you see me ride around the block. They used to actually give me a laugh at this one. They used to give me the old horse over at my wife's. They had a mother and two, full-grown adult horses. So the mother was really old, and she had a flatulence issue. So I'm riding the farting horse down the street, right? But why are they giving me the farting horse? Because clearly I am not prone in this. And all I'm thinking to myself when I'm reading this, I'm like, well, maybe that's what I should have done, is gone and punched one of the horses and run him. Because it works, right? I mean, except here's the difference. I'm not Conan, and I'm not Batman.
Right.
I do that, and they're going to bite me and kick me and then probably ride me.
Okay, let's go.
And probably ride me around.
The horse start kind of bobbing and weaving, like, uh-oh.
And I'd be on YouTube. It'd be great. I did like the fight with Batman, the inmates. I thought that was really cool how they donned the outfits, and because the Joker's plan, the understanding Batman was, I need a set amount of time to lay everything in place. And that's where the time passage thing I thought was really important. This was a plan the Joker did. That's why a few hours wasn't enough for me in this. It doesn't work in a few-hour time frame. The Joker has planned this out for some time with the intention when the end game came to place and when he actually got into Arkham, Batman would have to go through this gauntlet to get to him so that way he would have the upper hand. He needed to have all the Robins and Batgirl in place for his plan. So this is something that occurred over a major amount of time.
Yeah.
If it was a few-hour time frame, I'd have the same issues that were being mentioned earlier. So that's something that I really found that was compelling about this storyline. And I'm of the mind, I think with comic storylines, the more you pin down time frames, I'm talking from the writing end, and don't give the readers the opportunity to kind of fill that in themselves, because I want to make my own continuity of this. Let me do that. Let me kind of try to figure out when the Joker did all these things, because, the way his chaotic mind works, who knows what way it all came about. But obviously what's happened to the Robins can't have been happening concurrently until we get to the end of those issues and we see them all with the platter. Then they're all in the same relative place. Are you they're here, right? Are they here at Arkham at that point?
Yeah, I'm assuming they're actually in Arkham now. They've been either brought there, or manipulated, tricked to show up there. And the end of each of their individual issues, they're captured. And they're thrown and locked into a single place, and I think it's all in Arkham.
Because Nightwing, when he's dragging Nightwing, in Nightwing, he's dragging Nightwing. That's in Arkham at that point, right?
I think so.
Okay. We see the tapestry, which I liked the gauntlet of the villains, though.
Yeah.
What was really working for this for me, I can't comment enough on how much I really enjoyed the backup features in this Batman book throughout this entire process, because we didn't see it for every villain, but we got to see it for a lot of the heavy hitters, Penguin and what happened out with Riddler, for example, and stuff like that, to see the Joker recruiting them and realizing he did the same thing with Two-Face. He did the same thing with Clayface. These were all things that were really important to fleshing out this story for me. Because it makes me understand why they're playing along with the Joker's game. And there was something about that I thought was really compelling. When seeing him go up the gauntlet, Batman knowing the intensity of the Joker's stalling me. I need to, in order to throw him off, I need to get up there faster than he's expecting. I cannot give him the time that he wants. And that's one of the things that I really love, because we're seeing throughout this how well Batman knows the Joker. He isn't surprised by this. He knows the Joker's doing this. He knows why the Joker's doing this. I've got to see that Batman knows the Joker as well as the Joker knows Batman in order for this story to work for me. Because this has got to be the yin and the yang. They've got to be these two opposite sides of the coin, going up against each other. Not trying to use a Two-Face reference, but it really is what these two characters are. They are opposites. Polar opposites. Yeah. And I've got to really believe that in this storyline. And it's one of the few times I remember them feeling this way. That's when I'm really enjoying the taste of as they're going up there. Scarecrow, seeing him pulled into this whole thing. The Joker really took advantage of the who's who of Arkham that, I don't know, I thought was really, really neat.
Oh, God, yeah. And I'll tell you something. This is a wonderful, wonderful art read. When I went through and did my just looking at the images and just really sinking my teeth into what I was visually seeing and not focusing on the words, this was just an absolute beautiful issue with just non-traditional panels and the flow through and the blending of different stuff. But then there's just a little extra stuff like the usage of flies and the decay and just the rot really lets you, periodically you'll see these flies buzzing around, especially when we start getting the close-ups of Joker. You get some, some just kind of, gritty, graphic, horrific stuff. But it was even kind of, I don't know, if it wasn't even just a symbol of just the decay and the death and destruction. It kind of was part of it. It kind of helped pull me into the story even more. And the fact that it wasn't like just overdue Lord of the Flies, flies everywhere swarming you, kind of added to, my, the simplicity of this. The imagery kind of made it accentuate and actually kind of brought it up another level. And I think that was it's a really cool usage of some of these, the backgrounds and just the death and destruction, the carnage. This was such a part of the story for me.
It's funny when they were talking about the gore earlier, and there's a valid point to be made there. And I do want to address that again. I'm a school teacher. I buy comics for my classroom all the time. I actually and I'll talk about them a little later in the show, funded a couple of all-ages Kickstarters. They were just ones that I happened to come across. And one of them had a Gemini offer, which was really, really cool, where you get 2 of the graphic novels, that you were bidding on, which is good for me because I want one for myself, but I also want one for my classroom. The other one, there was a PDF, the book. The PDF is great because I'll take the PDF for me and then put the book in my classroom for my kids. That's what I do for my students, all ages material. My kids love comics. They love reading comics. They don't go out and buy comics on their own unless they're like Diary of a Wimpy Kid or there's stuff that are in the library or stuff at the book fairs and things like that. And I want to see more comic materials in those places. This isn't written for them, though. And I mean that genuinely. It's clearly not. You're right, joking about it, but to me, I want to see more material out there for them. I'm sad that things like Superman Family Adventures are being canceled. Not just for them, for me. I love that book. That book's not going to be around. I'm hoping, as we've seen in the past, that is going to be replaced by more all-ages material. I'm hoping that they're still seeing some value in that, and they keep producing that material, especially in trade format. As a teacher, that's essential for me. Trades work much better in my classroom than floppies do. Floppies don't work in my classroom. They get destroyed too quickly. Trades, they last. So it's great when this stuff's collected. Like another Tiny Titans collection was just solicited in DCB service. I bought it because I want that in my classroom. And I keep buying that material because I want my students exposed to that material. This is not the material for them. I love the gritty nature of it. I love the scary nature of this because it's written for me. And I think it's really, really terrific. I think parents need to take an active role when it comes to media. And I think educators need to take an active role when it comes to media like this to recognize this is for teenagers to adults. That's the age group that it's made for. You wouldn't show this to a little kid. And I think a lot of our parent listeners I really admire that monitor the material that they're picking up from the comic shops, and they decide what's appropriate for their child and what's not. What age is appropriate for this material for their child and what's not. And I think that varies from child to child, depending on the maturity. And also, like if my kid's not into horror movies, by the time they hit high school years, I wouldn't give this material to them. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you've got to really... I know friends of mine who don't like the scary genre, the horror genre, and this might not be a story I would put their way. My wife, I wouldn't give this to... My wife's an adult. I wouldn't give this to her because, while she'll go to some horror movies with me, she tends to like the classic Friday the 13th and stuff like that. This might be too much for her. I think you just got to know, your audience. But for a Batman audience, this is really good for me.
Oh, yeah. This is, yeah.
So the gore, I stand by what I said earlier. I think that they make clever use of what they don't show. And I think that's a real key. I like this whole sword in the stone, chainsaw in the stone with the Justice League. And really showing that they're not worthy.
Yeah. I tell you, tough to be Superman. Poor guy. He's just like, no. Again, more just really cool torture of the Joker. And I love the fact that he gave the guy a little bit of hope. He's like, hey, the current alternates. Who knows? Maybe you'll get lucky. Maybe you'll be worthy enough. Yeah, granted, there's no chance in heck the guy was going to survive. But, again, this is showing a Joker that is even beyond the sick level. And I love the fact that he barricades the door. And you actually see in the panels, a couple panels before that, where he's telling them, hey, quick, throw that in front of the door. You're early. Just so Bruce wouldn't be able to interfere. Just so Bruce would watch this guy die. And one more just horrific moment on top of, the previous and the prior stuff that, he's had to see and deal with.
Those moments when you realize that those closest to your family has been captured and they're at death's door. And I think this sequence is where we see death of the family. Where are they? What have you done to them? This, I think, is the death of the family that they're talking about. And this is what the Joker's been planning all along, destroying the family. When Bruce steps up and agrees to play through what the electroshock and all that stuff, that's going to be really interesting to me to see how that plays out. Because did Batman prepare for this? Did he, on some level, know that the Joker was going to put him in a life or death situation? And is he one step ahead of the Clown Prince? There's that part of me that wants to and needs to believe that. Because the next issue is the conclusion, right?
Yeah. Yeah, next is the big grand finale of this. And I'll tell you, I'm thinking his costume's probably well insulated. But it's, how insulated can you make it? He's probably hurting, but I don't think Bruce is dead because Joker doesn't want him dead. Joker just wants him, dropped down. But I loved that sequence where Joker's like, hey, either you play your part or you grow old wondering what happened to him because you will never find them. And I believe it. I believe actually the Joker probably has covered his bases so well that if Bruce doesn't play this out, the way the Joker wants it played out, he will never see them again.
Wow.
Yeah, this is just, again, and again, those horrific art sequences where just those close-ups on his face and just, again, the flies. Those flies are getting to me because I was like, man, that's just neat just seeing them buzz around his face because, he's wearing rotted flesh on his face. That's going to attract some grime and creepy and crawlies and whatnot.
It's funny when we see that sequence at the end, and I want to just commend the whole look and the artwork of the backup feature because I really enjoyed this creative team on Snyder's run when he was on Detective Comics. And to see these guys have an opportunity to really play around with the mystery of the Joker after Batman being shocked. Because in this case, it's not really a backup feature as much as an extension of what was already going on previously in the issue. So they're actually extending and continuing, but now focusing on the villains. That's Batman underneath that. Batman's cape being pulled over himself. So my question is, when it says time for dinner, what's underneath there? And, for that to be delivered after Batman's been shocked, ooh, boy.
Now, with the gun that Harvey has.
Yeah.
My theory is Joker did absolutely nothing to the gun. He completely bluffed Harvey. And it just kind of shows his true contempt that he has towards Two-Face. And I thought that was another great Joker power play, great Joker manipulating the circumstancing, not only knowing Batman, but knowing these villains, knowing these rogues better than they know themselves.
And Batman supporting cast the same way. See, what you're saying here, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I'll let you go back to what you're saying because I actually think where you're going with this is exactly why I'm convinced he knows nothing other than what you're saying right now for Two-Face. And I agree with you on Two-Face. And this, to me, is more evidence. Go ahead.
Well, I was just about to go exactly where you went with it. That this kind of stuff shows the level of thought, shows what he's able to accomplish, what he's able to manipulate, and how he's able to understand a person, so deeply that he could not know who they are, but know their character, know what makes them tick, knows what strings to pull at. So it's funny because this is again another argument against. Well, it's actually an argument for and against him knowing because he knows Harvey's secret, he knows Harvey's past, and that's how he's able to play Harvey. Well, maybe he needs to know Bruce's past, how to play him. But I'm still holding on to the fact that the Joker doesn't know. He only knows Batman. He knows, the persona, but he knows it a level beyond anybody else does. Just like Bruce doesn't know Joker's secret identity. He doesn't know who Joker was before he became Joker, how he became the Joker, how everything that played out beforehand. He knows, though, what he is now. He knows where he comes from, and he can play. He understands how the character thinks.
I think the joke to the Joker is throwing out just enough to let people craft their own fiction and for him to laugh at them doing it. Mm-hmm. And I think there's humor for him in that. And I think he does that in this moment with Harvey. When he's laughing there, it's so totally because he knows he got him.
Yeah.
It's like, I've said just enough for you that you're filling in every possible blank that I left. And that's all I need. I need you to fill in the blanks. I don't need to do anything. I'm going to let you do all the work. And that's funny to me.
Yeah.
That's the joke. And that moment where he's like looking, he's got the gun pointed at him, and then he just starts laughing. He knew at that moment that he had Harvey.
Yeah.
And, ooh, was that good. The ending of that, where you have to be joking, and I'm just looking at that. I don't know what else to say other than what we've already said. I just don't know.
And part of that whole thing with you have to be joking, part of me is, again, it was their reaction that kind of leaves me away from Alfred, because they wouldn't have that strong of a reaction on Alfred. Now, it could be a chicken cordon bleu underneath there. For all we know, that could be that you have to be joking, but you got
it's a McRib.
Yeah, a McRib. Oh, hey. You never know with the Joker where he's going to go with it, but it's got to be somebody who these two know that these two, it would have an effect on them. Yeah, I hope it's not. I really hope we don't lose any really good characters, but you never know. Well, let's go on to Nightwing number 16. The writer is Kyle Higgins, with pencils by Eddie Barrows, inks by Eber Fieri, colors by Rob Reese, letters by Carlos Mangual, cover by Barrows, Ferreira, and Reese, with the assistant editor Katie Kubert, editor Brian Cunningham. Nightwing was created by Marv Wolfman and George Perez.
One of the things I really noticed about this issue, first of all, besides the beautiful artwork, is I've really loved this art team on this book. It felt very classic. It's funny, as a guy who loved Nightwing from Wolfman and Perez, I think it's really, really important that you give this guy, and over the years, Nightwing's really enjoyed some great art. And I think this has just been one of those art teams that have really nailed this book, nailed the athleticism of Dick Grayson, nailed what really makes him different. He feels like a guy, too, that's gone through a maturity. Like, he feels like a guy who was Batman at some point. Yeah. And now has gone back to being his own man. And I really like that. I've liked the role of him kind of, building his own circus, kind of trying to go back to his roots, trying to build and craft his own life. And not... See, I have issue with what the Joker was saying in this one. When he's coming back and setting up roots in Gotham, I think this shows that Dick Grayson now has matured beyond the man who had to run away from Batman. Now he's a man who knows himself, and he's not afraid to be in Gotham. He doesn't need to be out of Gotham to have his own identity. He's already earned that. And that's one of the things I really love about this storyline. But again, every time he talks about him, never says Dickie Boy, never says Grayson, never says anything except Nightwing. Everything the Joker throws out, there is an only indication that he's seen when the circus traveled around. Nightwing was always there. So he knows that there's a relationship with Nightwing to the circus. I don't think he knows that it's Dick Grayson.
Yeah, again, this was another issue that kind of added to my questioning whether the Joker knows. Because, you think about it, that Sonia Branch, who, has a very strong connection to Dick Grayson with, being Zuko's daughter and just everything that's, going there and their personal connection and their personal relationship. If I'm the Joker and I really wanted to torment Grayson, she would be a target as well. And she's very obviously she's free and clear of Joker. So that's again another possibility, another possible clue that he doesn't really know that it's Dick Grayson underneath the mask.
Now it says he's digging up the bodies of former Haley's members. Where does it say that it's all of them? Because do we see Dick Grayson's parents?
I did not see that, but I thought.
Because wouldn't Dick have referenced
that he got them all?
But it just says, digging up the bodies of former Haley Circus members is a bit theatrical even for me. And Dick Grayson says, it's everyone I know, everyone I care about, he can find them. They'll never be safe. But he never references his parents.
Right. Are
they there? Wouldn't he directly reference that?
Yeah, they would. If his parents were there, they would directly zoom in and flash on it,
and wouldn't the Joker?
The Joker would make sure of it. They would be swinging on a trapeze.
And he did reference a trapeze at one point. He actually referenced, like, there's multiple people hanging there.
Yeah.
But, and I don't know, I'm not saying his parents aren't there. I thought it was interesting that he never referenced them being there. And maybe Dick Grayson didn't really have time to see them if they were there. But, I know the Joker blows this place up really good, but that doesn't mean that coming out of this that Dick Grayson can't rebuild. Now, the question is, will the members of Haley Circus want to rebuild? And I don't know. There's part of me that thinks that they would.
I'm if I was in that circus, I'll see ya. Don't call me. I don't ever want to have any involvement with you again. Just, if they survive. Again, there is question as to whether they'll survive, because you think about to the Red Hood issue where they inoculated all the people. There was a time frame. They had to get to the inoculation right away, or people were burning up and dying.
Right.
So I'm very worried that there's probably not any member of Haley's Circus left. Mm-hmm. I think they all died out because without someone there to inoculate them right away, it ain't going to happen. And I don't see the Joker doing anything other than a lethal strand in all of them.
The funny part is, it's a lot of what Dick Grayson's going through. Isn't that due to himself being drugged?
Well, the visual stuff that he's seeing them, because that was something that I really liked when I was reading it. This is something that all of these stories have done. They give you this splash moment where you're thinking, "Oh my God, Joker knows," and then they explain away, "No, that's not really Joker saying. It's visions. It's the Joker gas." Or like with Batgirl, where it was James Jr. talking to Barbara, and you're thinking, "Oh my God, the Joker knows." No, it's not. It's James Jr. Surprise! So each of these titles do these great swerves to continue on the mystery of, does he know or doesn't he know? Well, here's a clue that says he does know. Wait, no, it's not really that clue. Here's a nice little swerve for you. These have been some great stories, just the storytelling process and the layout that we're getting through these have been just, wow, spot on, just pure mystery moments.
And they're not cookie cutter. That's one of the things I really enjoy about this is the fact that each one of them is presented in such a way that it's unique to that character and to the situation. It's been a great mystery. It's made me, who I've been pretty convinced that he doesn't know, question it from time to time. We're like, well, maybe he does know. I don't know. There's even that part of me that, as convinced as I am that he doesn't know, there's that part of me that wonders what's underneath there and if it's going to reveal something. So I'm still not 100%, I guess 100% convinced that even with how set I am that way. And that's a great sign to a storyline. It's one of the things that I've really enjoyed about this series is how they've looked at all the Robins. Nightwing did it so well. Over at Teen Titans, which the plot's by Scott Lobdell, the dialogue by Fabian Nicieza, pencils by Brett Booth, inks by Norm Rapmond, colors by Andrew Dahlhaus, letters Travis Lanham, cover by Greg Capello and FCO Placencia, associate editor or assistant editor Darren Shannon, I apologize on that, editor Eddie Berganza. This is one of those books that I got to tell you, I've really enjoyed the artwork of Brett Booth with Norm Rapmond on inks and the colors, the whole creative team. It's been a great look for this series. As the series has progressed, I've really grown to like this team. I've liked the development of them. I liked when we had those issues where we got to see Wonder Girl team up with Superboy and Red Robin to kind of explore what's going on with her and her armor and why she's wearing it and how it was the story of tragic love and how the guy that she loved wasn't, well, he turned out to be, which is what usually happens in those stories. But also just the great, like the mystery of Solstice that's being alluded to in this and then the Red Robin issue, because now we're gradually going to bring in Red Hood and the Outlaws and have the convergence of the two teams. To me, I thought has been just a great using of this storyline to not be, sometimes when they do these crossovers, the crossover issues become fill-in issues, and there's no further character development. It's kind of like you could pull them completely out of the series, and it's like the issue before the crossover happens, the issue after the crossover happens, and they're connected, but the stuff that happened in between is clearly fill-in material. I prefer this. This event's happening, but it means the stuff that's been going on with the character development with the Titans has not stopped. It's continuing throughout this. We're seeing that continued growth. We're seeing a growth of Bunker in this. It's funny, a guy who, like Bunker, I'm going to be honest, Bunker was kind of a generic character to me when he first got started. I didn't dislike him, but I wasn't through the roof with him. This storyline, I'm really starting to dig Bunker. There's bits in, and I'm kind of blending Red Hood and the Outlaws with Teen Titans in this because these stories converge and cross over in each other. You know, there's bits where Roy's given a nod to Bunker and going, you know, this guy could eventually one day be a member of the Justice League, and I'm like, you know, Roy might be right. You know, if he keeps going, and do I honestly think Bunker's going to be on the Justice League? Well, if you told me years ago that Cyborg was going to be on the Justice League, I would have laughed at you. I love Cyborg on the Justice League. I think it's going to be a long time before we were to see Bunker on the Justice League, if he ever winds up there. But I'm enjoying the fact that these teenage heroes have infinite possibilities. Bunker could be retired by then, too. Who knows? This is fun for me. I'm enjoying this read and this generation of characters. For me, the Teen Titans are finally and have been in the development of this process growing into their own team that feels very Teen Titans to me. Something that this book really needs. Oh, God, yeah. And I did like seeing Roy and just, you know, being, you know, a really cool hero. We're seeing the hero moments out of Arsenal. We're seeing the fact that he is, you know, he's the man with the plan, and he's using the team and saying, okay, it's, you know, effective leadership, manipulation, and even just him dealing with Bunker when he's like, hey, is all you can do punch with those things? Focus, relax, concentrate. He brought out, you know, he did what a leader should do. He brought out the best in his team. And I thought that was just a great hero moment in Roy, just to see that glimmer. And again, I'm going to hold on to that. I hope he gets rid of the trucker hat and, you know, he goes full hero. But it's part of him not, you know, him holding on to the I'm not a hero bit. And I understand that, and I get it, and I don't hate it, and I'm not going to sit there and complain about the usage. Again, it's a piece of the character, part of who he is, and I think there's going to be a more solid reason explained where the hat came from later on down the line as we start getting more Roy stories, as we start getting more of an understanding of who he is. Red Hood and the Outlaws, .5, the origin of the trucker hat. Yeah. I honestly think there's the story behind that hat. I don't think it's because it was referenced in this issue. It's been referenced in other issues, and I don't know if it's being just referenced because people are commenting, "What the heck's up with the trucker hat?" But I think there's an actual story behind the hat, and part of me thinks it's got to do with him being clean. I think that's his. You know, he doesn't carry around a 1-year chip or anything like that, but I think that hat is a reminder of either somebody who helped him get clean, someone who helped him stay clean, or a reminder of somebody who didn't, you know, stay clean and died, or a friend of his that he knew that OD'd or something. There's a story behind that hat. I do kind of like the bit where he references his time with Killer Croc. Yeah. Because I like when there's villains who, you know, they're clearly still villains. Like, I'm not going to think Killer Croc's a good guy because he did all that. But I like that Killer Croc, there was a reason why Killer Croc would say, hey, help this dude out. I've been here before. There was something about that really worked. And that he references references that in that moment, Killer Croc is Waylon. You know, he's not... Yeah. There was something I liked about that. I don't know. It just really stood out for me. Well, it was funny because that did, you know, when I first read that did kind of throw me because I really don't know the origin behind Killer Croc, where he comes from. I've only seen him as the big monster that, you know, bashes Batman with a rock. I've seen more of an animalistic. I never saw the man behind Killer Croc before. So this sequence, seeing this, I was like, oh, that's wow, that's kind of cool. And just it had me hungry for more info. It had me hungry for, okay, what is this? Who is this? What's going on here? And
how is this going to play out? Does he know who this is? Is he just some kid he thinks is a junkie that he's trying to help out? Or what's the level behind the story? And again, another backstory that I want to get out of this.
It's funny, I was looking back at some of the old issues of Red Hood and the Outlaws, and it's funny how he wears a lot of hats. Like, he wears the trucker hat that you're mentioning, but when he's on the plane, he wears, like, an anti-Superman hat. I'm looking at issue 2 as we're looking through that. Again, they never really do mention, like, where that trucker hat came from, other than that he just seems to like to wear ball caps. You think it'd be an opportunity for DC to start marketing the Roy Harper ball cap.
Oh, God, yeah. Come on, tell me that wouldn't be a seller.
I'd buy it.
Oh, God, yeah, in a heartbeat.
Because I like it's funny how fond I've grown of this book, Red Hood and the Outlaws. It's, the book Red Hood and the Outlaws and the Teen Titans.
Yeah.
And I like that they're really different. At this point, I'm going to say it, I'd love for these guys to kind of stay where they're at, but like kind of evolve more to be clearly good guys, if that makes sense. But yet to keep their outlaw status, where they're not really trusted by anybody. I kind of like them being the, for lack of a better term, the new outsiders in the DC universe. Like, I like the theme of the book. I like the teases and the allusions that, like, the alluding to the fact that they're going to be going against Deathstroke. Like, I want to see that. I want to read that. Because I think that's going to be a good battle. There's stories to be told there that I think, and it's going to be interesting to see how much of their storyline continues to cross over in Teen Titans. Is Roy going to take a more active role? I think a lot of that's going to depend on what happens with Tim.
Yeah.
After all this.
Yeah, and Hugo Strange, bringing him into this, and again, another Bat Rogue who's playing into this universe. And I like the fact that they introduced it, and there's going to be a story coming down the line. We got Deathstroke up next. Well, after Deathstroke, we're probably going to get a Strange story. I'm like, well, I'm glad they're doing this. They're thinking long term. They're planning multiple story arcs down the line, and I want to see where this goes. This is a title that, when it first came out, we were both like, I don't know about this. Now I'm so all into this title. Like, this is wonderful. I'm loving these characters. I'm loving this. And like you, I want to see them kind of go a little bit more hero side, but they can't lose who they are. They can't lose the outlaw side.
Month in, month out, Red Hood and the Outlaws has done nothing but improve. And when I say improve, I want to clarify that it's become a great book. I'm really into Red Hood and the Outlaws. So it's one of those books that once I've gotten used to the direction that they're going in with it, it's really very, very quickly became a favorite title out of the batch. Yeah. Going back to Teen Titans a little bit, because we kind of glossed over we didn't really talk about the Batgirl stuff. I thought her usage there was terrific. Because to me, it's really important when you start doing crossovers and start having the characters appear in each other's books, which we haven't seen a ton of in the New 52, that it really gives you an idea of the maturity and the level of respect that other people have. Batgirl to them is an enigma. But I like that there's also some posturing from people like Wonder Girl. And we see that with her with Batgirl. We also see that with her with Roy and Starfire. She is not looking to take a back seat to these characters, whereas people like Bunker and Kid Flash, they're kind of in awe, especially of Batgirl. Batgirl, Kid Flash is kind of in awe. He mentioned me, that type of thing, kind of that thrown out there was great. And I like that their reactions were different in both books. I like that they do defer to each other. Like when Wonder Girl throws out some orders, even Batgirl, it's funny, they were more comfortable following Batgirl than they were following Roy and Starfire. And I liked that distinction, too, because she's more of a known quantity to them, recognizing that she's an agent of Batman and that she does have a friendship with Tim. I liked seeing the distinction in the two issues here between Red Hood and Teen Titans, between how the team was reacting subtly differently to each different version of who was associated with them in the quest to find Red Robin and, of course, to find Jason Todd. And it makes sense that these teams come together. And I like that it's different than Nightwing. Yeah. It just makes sense in a different way. It's also different than what's going on with Damian, which is amazing because Damian's a people person. But, those distinctions, the Batman and Robin issue where Damian's like the second part of that, where Damian was finally captured, I thought was tremendous as well. These stories with the Robins, I thought, have been uniquely handled in a way that's neat. I want to see the inevitable conclusion where we're going to see Jason Todd versus Tim Drake, which is what the Joker's building towards. What is that going to look like, and how are these two going to react to each other and overcome that? Because there's one thing we know, there's a friendship there between them. And that's been established in the New 52. So I want to see then where you've got these two friends who've had this tentative friendship, however that, there's that reaching out between the two of them. How are they going to react to each other? I think it's the perfect battle to be held.
Yeah.
Because I really want to see it.
Oh, God, yeah.
What did he do to the inside of the Red Hood's mask?
Well, I'm thinking that's what it's probably the chemical Joker mind control agent, whatnot.
So then we're going to see something similar with Tim, I'm guessing?
Well, I'm thinking that's actually, it'd probably be easier to manipulate Jason to attack and try to kill Tim than the other way around. So, you go that route with, with Jason going after Tim.
Is it, though? Because the Joker's already been foiled by Jason. We saw that in the first issue of the Red Hood arc. Now, I'm not saying that you're wrong on the Joker's thinking on that. I think the Joker's going to be sorely mistaken when that all happens.
Now, again, it could also be something as simple as the Joker just painted inside the masks, so when Jason puts it on, he's got a funny face on his mask when he removes it. Hey, come on, the Joker could have very easily done that.
Yeah, that'd be really, really funny. To the point where he wouldn't... Or is it that Jason's going to have to wear the mask now because he's going to be disfigured?
Again, could be. It's funny, you sit there and you can throw out so many different opportunities and possibilities with the Joker, and any one of them could actually happen, and any one of them would probably be really cool and funny and neat to see. So it's this series, we've been gushing over just the Death of the Family series, and there's a reason behind it. It's this is a monumental event going on over the Bat titles, and it's every appearances, these interconnections, they all feel real to me. I loved this Batman and Robin issue with Damian, and just how you have him fighting the quote-unquote Batman. And you have everything that was playing on where Joker wanted Damian to kill Batman. And the whole time I'm sitting there going, how the heck is the Joker able to do this? What's going on here? And you see Damian pleading with his father to get him to stop. Fight it. You can do it. I don't want to kill you. And it's the whole process that went through, and it was just that, and then the final explanation. I was like, this is wonderful. This is, because the whole time I'm thinking that's Bruce. I'm figuring, how's he going to get there? Where's this taking place? Is this going on before 16? Is this something after 16? Where is this? What's happening here? I'm trying to figure and put it together. And then, of course, at the end, you're like, oh, that wasn't Bruce the whole time. I'm an idiot. But again, amazing story being told. And it was something that pulled me completely in and had me believing it, because I was such on Damian's side and seeing what Damian was doing and how he was handling it.
I know I'm kind of jumping to this. I was thinking about something that was said earlier. That Las Vegas wedding 1 month earlier, I think that really happened. Because Ivy's got that guy wrapped around forced to do that. I think she really did it for the purpose of getting Clayface to play along. Because she's got the vine kind of wrapped around him. I think she was manipulating him the way that we say she was manipulating him. But I'm going to correct myself and say that I definitely think the wedding actually happened. He started to realize the realities of the manipulation, which is why at the end he's ready to kind of overcome her and is livid about the whole thing. I don't know. It's because
it definitely could have actually physically happened, but it just, I don't think it was any big affair or anything like that. So it's I don't know.
Yeah. And that leads to like her facing off with Emperor Penguin. I don't know. It was kind of an interesting thing that was happening with poor Ivy.
She's a character that I always, I want to, I wish she would actually go cross over to the good side, because she's got those honorable intentions sometimes, where she wants to, help the environment. She wants to save the planet, but she's just, how she goes about it is off kilter, because she's a little bit touched in the head. So you kind of feel bad for her that you're like, okay, yes, she's a killer. Yes, she does bad things. But if she had the proper guidance, if she had the proper direction, if she had the proper sensei, could she follow the path of light? Could she actually be a hero and be somebody good? And it's, I don't know.
You would have kept her in Vegas longer.
Hey, yeah.
Can we talk a little Detective Comics number 16? Because we haven't really talked Detective in a long time.
Oh, sure.
And it's John Layman's the writer. Art by Jason Fabak. And I apologize for any name butchery there. Colors by Jeremy Cox. Letters by Jared K. Fletcher. Cover by Fabak and Cox. Assistant editor Katie Kubert. Associate editor Harvey Richards. And the editor Mike Martz. And, it's funny. We haven't had a chance to talk much about this book since we talked about the Zero issue. This was something that I've really, really been enjoying. I like this idea that somebody as crazy as the Joker, there would be other loonies on the street and people just looking to get into something that are lost, that would start developing their own little cults because they think they understand the Joker. Sometimes the legend of somebody outshines and becomes more cult-like. And I love that there were little tiny ones that were kind of throwaway cults, or throwaway partnerships, like Punchline and stuff like that we see in all this. But then there is this other bigger group, the one that Batman is really searching for, that has this tendency to have people pulled in that I really kind of enjoyed. We have that group Die Laughing, which is another one of the throwaway groups. And Bruce is really using them as a way to find out more about the League of Smiles, the bigger ones, the ones that he's really after. I don't know, it's funny with these Joker offshoots. How is the Joker going to feel about them? Like, what happens if the League of Smile gets too big? Is the Joker going to let that stand? For how long?
Yeah, how much of it will he enjoy? How much will he tolerate? You never know with the Joker. And it's with every single, in real life, every single serial killer, every single psychopath out there has fans, has the following, you get these monsters that have killed people. They're getting love letters in prison. They're getting these, hey, I really dig what you're doing, man. I understand, the system's, corrupt and you're innocent. They get these support. So it makes perfect sense that Joker would get that. Joker would get the downtrodden, the people who are a little bit touched in the head. And on one hand, part of me thinks the Joker wouldn't have an issue with these guys just because he would think it's kind of funny. But then again, you never know with him. You saw what he did to the clown, over on Nightwing. Is imitation the highest form of compliment? Not always to the Joker. So he may not like the fact that these groups are out there. Or he may see them as just another way to, kind of keep Batman on his toes and another test for the Bat King to keep him firing on all cylinders. So you never know which Joker you're going to get. And that's kind of the cool part of the character.
Yeah, the League of Smiles thing really kind of stuck for me because it's kind of clear that they're taking advantage of the Joker situation.
Yeah.
As a way to make a name for themselves. The Merrymaker one clearly, running the show. It's funny, I thought the group without the Merrymaker was already intimidating enough. Now you throw somebody else into the whole mix. I don't know. The one guy, when he realized that they were going to kill, realized that, hey, I thought we were having fun. I thought we were being extreme. This is an example of where you think you understand something, and when you find out that you don't, and you're in too deep, you go to extremes. This poor kid cuts his face off because he can't deal with the fact that he had been a part of any of this, that this is who he's become, this is what he's associated with himself. When you go into something that extreme and you get a part of a world that you just don't understand, that's something that will shatter you. He went to a very dark place and horribly disfigured himself, and that just shows you how lost the kid was before he got into all that.
Oh God, yeah. And again, it's weird to say that there's an element of realism behind it, but we've seen, in the media, we've seen in modern day news of these people who just go a level beyond rational thought where you're like, what could possibly someone think, oh, that makes sense? How could they actually go that way? And this kid's that exact same route. He had his vision in his head. And when that kind of got crumbled, when that kind of got distorted, when reality kind of splashed in and said, hey, here's a wake-up call for you, his brain couldn't handle it. He had to just go that extreme, even beyond it, just to try to, in a coping mechanism. And I was just like, that was an issue where I put it down. I was like, whoa, that's pretty intense. You get this, it's not only just this introduction of another massive group for Batman to fight. There is that story of that kid, and his story's not done yet. We're going to get him again.
Did Torch tattoo that on his face then? Because is that why he had to cut it off? Because he said he didn't want the constant reminder of the Joker? Because he cut off the smile.
Right.
So are you guessing that doesn't wash off?
Yeah, I'm guessing that doesn't wash off. That's either tattooed, permanent on, or there's something beyond that. Or he could have just wanted to remove his smile. So remove his whole mouth so he could never smile.
But he didn't take out the whole mouth. He took off that whole area that had the Joker smile. So it's more than his mouth. It was the cheeks and everything surrounding it. I mean, it's just like a big amount of it, which led me to believe it was tattooed. I don't know that I'm right on that, but it was just something when I saw that, I'm like, whoa, that's pretty intimidating.
Yeah, and it does also show that kid is, a little bit touched in the head as well, because a natural human reaction is not to cause self-harm.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for someone to actually go beyond that. I don't want to hurt myself to, just simply cut yourself. Then you get this guy who not only cut himself, he cut off a huge chunk of his face. And that is a very wow kind of moment. It's
funny, we had introduced in the Penguin issues earlier on this group of C-list villains that the Penguin had been extorting money from to kind of put them as a group and get protection and to kind of be something more. The Penguin was making them something more, and you can see somebody like the Penguin thriving on using, because they have skills of certain sets that if the Penguin groups them together, they could actually be something useful to him under his guidance. There is a method to what he's doing. Well, when Emperor Penguin takes over, there's some of these guys that are just kind of playing wait and see with all that, but the one guy's calling him out, you're not Cobblepot and all that, and I like that he took that moment to say, fine, you think I'm not Cobblepot? And takes him out and makes an example. And that's where you start developing some fair weather friends, because the people that turned to join his side will easily turn against him depending on the way the wind blows. Yeah. And I think that's a very real look at the villain world. I really liked how that all played out. It's funny how the backup really kind of expanded that storyline for me, and I found it to be something interesting and exciting. Detective Comics has been a very good book. I'm a big fan of Chew. I don't know if you've ever read Chew. But if you're liking Layman's work on, and this is for anybody out there, I'm kind of not just saying this to you, Jim, anybody out there, anybody who's liking Layman's work on this, I can't recommend enough reading Chew.
I read it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. But remember when David Barron was on our show and he's, the ILL, I Love Layman? I've started to read up on John Layman and start following some of his current material, and that's how I got onto Chew. It was basically from David Barron, and who is the colorist on the backup features in Batman right now that I'm enjoying so much. So I've grown to really respect David Barron's opinion, and when he says to me, hey, this is somebody you want to keep an eye out for, I jumped on that. So Chew Jim is something I'd recommend to you and any of the listeners out there as being something that you really should check out if you're enjoying his detective work, because he's a very talented writer. And Detective, I think, has been, to me, I think Detective has improved since John Layman's been on board. I think it's become a really must-read book.
Yeah, it's interesting because that and the Dark Knight one, where they're not directly connected to the death of the family story, they've kind of been on the back burner. But every single time I pick it up and I read it, I'm like, oh my god, this is cool. They're neat stories, and this is a good, it's a solid good series. But it always kind of gets. I reach to the other stuff just because the others have the death of the family label on it. And because there's, I got to see what happens next. What's in the box? What's going to happen to, Tim? What's going to happen to Jason? What's, Nightwing? Where's his at? But every time I read it, I'm like, wow, this is a great story. Why am I not, gushing about this? Why am I not talking about this? So it's a solid Bat title that, it's, I don't know, it's yeah.
Jim, I didn't want to cut you off, and I'm sorry. I think I derailed you on Batman and Robin. Was there anything else you wanted to discuss about that before we wrap up this segment? Because I'm really enjoying the book, too. I know we already did a segment on Batman and Robin, but I agree with you. The culmination of the whole Damian thing, for me, like you, I really enjoyed Damian being pulled emotionally in the directions the Joker was trying to manipulate him in, but then Damian showing that his time with his father has influenced him, and he became something more. This is his dad. He's not going to play the Joker's game, and if the Joker's going to do this, Damian's going to sacrifice himself for his dad. I loved that moment. I thought it was really pivotal. Yes, it put Damian in a vulnerable place, but it also showed a strength to Damian. I love this kid now. And if you had told me when Grant Morrison introduced him I was going to feel that way about him, I would have said, you're nuts. I love this kid. This kid is Robin.
Amen. Amen. This was an issue that really had me wanting a Robin series.
Yes.
I really want them to do Robin, have it be Damian. And you could even, for me, I would even accept taking this Batman and Robin title and having it be more of a Damian focus and doing more of these great Damian issues where we get to see inside this character, especially with Tomasi writing, because Tomasi does a great writing for Damian.
Yes.
He really gets the character. He really gets the struggle this kid's going through. So if he wants to continue on telling us some Damian stories, I'd be really happy and excited for it. But I want more Damian. This is this right here is showing Damian's come a long way. And again, I want to see within Death of the Family what happens with the Bat family. What happens to Damian? Where is he going to stand, and how is he going to stand against the Joker? Because we saw Nightwing, we saw Grayson, we saw Tim, we saw Barbara all say, "I'm going to kill you. This is it. I'm going to kill you." To the Joker. And we see Damian, the assassin, the killer, the one who's actually taken a life, say, "I'm not going to break the code. Father, kill me. I won't kill you." And I think that, for me, was a really kind of pivotal moment in that, we have that, that part of Damian where we have these other no-kill characters who are saying, "I'm going to cross the line with you. I'm taking you down now. You've gone too far."
And Damian won't. And I'm with you. Yeah. I loved that about this issue. I love the growth from Damian. And I think that's one of the great things is when you can take a character like that. It's one of the things what did I love about Tim Drake? I thought that series did a great job of developing and growing and maturing that character over a long period of time. We've seen that with Damian. And we're continuing to see that with Damian. There's so many more places you can go with this character. And I want to see it. I want to continue on that journey and that ride with him. And he's becoming Robin for me. We're to the point where I associate him with the name. And it's not anymore that I have a problem with Tim Drake being Red Robin. I don't want Tim Drake gone. I love Tim Drake. I love Dick Grayson. I love Jason Todd. It's funny, I'm loving Jason Todd again. But it's Damian is Robin to me now. They've really established that in a way that really works for me. And I'm glad. And I think that's really nice. That's something that's really important when you do a legacy like that, to make it feel like that at this point. It's a cool book.
Lasers! He's got lasers!
I want to shout out really quick Brian Q. Miller and Marcio Takara's Earthward. This is a Kickstarter project, and I'm a big fan of these Kickstarter projects. A lot of times I find out just through word of mouth that something's going on that's an interesting Kickstarter project. This is a full-color, all-ages, 110-page graphic novel celebrating adventure, exploration, family, and space. It's all ages. The characters are really, really colorful and cool. I'm into this kind of thing. They have this cool thing. I actually did the Gemini backing, and what it does is it allows you to get 2 hard copies of Earthward and everything else that's like before it, which is kind of cool. These Kickstarter projects kind of build on each other. But go take a look at it. There's a video, but then there's also cool character and ship designs and everything. It's a neat-looking project. It's something I'm highly interested in. They're trying to do like this Don Bluth style animation, which I'm a big fan of that kind of thing. It's reminiscent of things like The Incredibles and that kind of fun thing. So I don't know. I just wanted to shout this out because for me it was a project I was very interested in. And the reason why I went for the Gemini one, I'm looking at it to get a copy for me and then a copy for my classroom, which is really neat. And I'm always on the lookout for some really entertaining material that I will enjoy, but I can also share with my students. So I wanted to shout this one out as a neat looking project. I also want to take a quick opportunity to shout out The Family Troll. This is done by Tyler Kirkham and his wife, Jill. Tyler Kirkham you'll know from the Green Lantern books, but you're also going to know Tyler Kirkham from his work over at Top Cow if you're a reader of the Top Cow material, which is I'm a fan of. This is a cool story. The two of them have been trying to have a child, and through this experience of trying to have a child together, and the trials and tribulations of that, they bonded and put together this story of a husband and wife set in like a magical time where they're trying to have a child, and through the dilemmas of trying to have a child, they end up going to the town magician, and they end up getting a troll, and a baby troll that they adopt and raise as their own. And I was adopted, so I'm eating this whole story up. It looks very heartwarming, and as you can guess, two human parents, a baby troll. The troll's obviously going to get bigger. We all know it from mystical stories, what trolls do and how they grow and things like that. And obviously this is going to lead to certain dilemmas for the family. And, it just shows, I think, a cool story of love and the trials and tribulations of love and things like that of a child. It's all ages material again. Every one of the backing opportunities you have for this story, you get the book. So the bottom tier, you get the book all the way straight on through. So this is cool for fans of Tyler Kirkham's work. Even if you haven't ever read anything from Tyler Kirkham, though, it's a very different style. I know he's a fan of games like Skyrim and stuff just from his Facebook page and Twitter and stuff. So this is a guy who's a fantasy fan, and this is just really, it looks like an animated universe fantasy. It looks gorgeous. I'm a big fan of that type of material. This looks like it's really accessible to people of a lot of different genres that you're into. So, make sure to go check out this Kickstarter and see if it's something for you that you'd like to support. I'm just very into it. It looks very, very cool to me. I was adopted, as I've mentioned many times on the show, and there's something about this story that's just near and dear to my heart. It connected with me in a personal way, so I jumped on this one, and I just urge people to at least check it out and see if it's something you might want to support, because it looks like a very, very cool project. The last one, and I got this one from Ian Levinstein, his page, I ended up seeing that he supported this. It's a documentary. It's called The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened. And this is a documentary about the proposed 1998 Superman Lives feature film that would have been one of the most original and strangest Superman ever. I get into kind of the behind the scenes of the various DC movie attempts and why they worked and why they failed. So for me, I like this behind the scenes kind of stuff. So I urge you to go check this out and see if this documentary might be something you want to support and you want to see this, because this is another Kickstarter project that I think is really interesting. Kevin Smith was announced as the writer, Tim Burton announced as the director, and Nick Cage as Superman. So, the fans had very heavy opinions on this whole thing, positive and negative, and I don't know. The project looked interesting to me, so it was something that I supported because I want to see this. So I wanted to shout these out because I think they're relevant to our listeners. Both creators in the first two projects are DC creators right now, and obviously this Death of Superman Lives hits on the Superman fan, especially with the film coming out right now. So I just want to shout it out and see if these are projects that you might consider supporting.
You look good. Been working out? You could probably use a little sun. Then again, who am I to talk?
Next discussion, we're going to be talking a little bit Firestorm here. Fury of Firestorm, issue number 15. The writer is Dan Jurgens. Well, writer pencils. The finishing ink art is Ray McCarthy, with letters by Taylor Esposito. Colors by Hi-Fi, with Jurgens and McCarthy and Hi-Fi colors. The assistant editor is Ricky Puritan, with editor Rachel Gluckston. And Firestorm was created by Jerry Conway and Al Milgren.
Milgren, yeah. And a very just classic creator. If we could, real quickly, I want to talk about issue 0.
Yeah.
Because it was interesting with the Firestorm issue 0 that it was a status quo change for Firestorm. Because we went from it being they each could turn into a Firestorm. They had the Firestorm Matrix, and when they combined, they became Fury. To them thinking they'd lost the Firestorm Matrix, they were no longer Firestorm, and finding out that no, now the rule is that they combine. And it's gone to a more traditional model for Firestorm where it's Ronnie in the driver's seat and Jason in the back seat. Now, here's the thing I'm wondering. Is it always going to be that way? Are they able to interchange? I wonder if we're going to find that down the road. That Jason can be in the forefront and Ronnie in the background the way that we're seeing in issue 15?
See, I don't know. I'm thinking it's only going to be Ronnie in the driver's seat, Jason as the intelligence side of it. Because you look at the power set, Ronnie had the physical power set. He was blasting fire, he was doing the energy blast, where Jason had the intellectual transmutation. So I'm thinking it's going to be always that way. But to be honest, they could shift it around. They could do a little flim-flam, a little 1-2 punch on you every so often. But I really enjoyed this Zero issue because it did continue the story going through. What we had in 14, Zero issue led right into 15. It was just the continuation of it. They didn't need to go back through and do a back origin or a history of Firestorm because from issue 1, we got that. We saw all that. So this was, again, a great usage of the Zero issue, a little bit different than what they did in other titles, but it's I don't want every title to be the same. I don't want every Zero issue to have been handled the exact same way. This one, they needed the continuation of the story. They needed the escalation of what happened to the Firestorm Matrix, which leads you into 15. This has been. I was like, this is kind of cool. I like this. I'm happy to see this type of thing play out and an understanding of it.
It's with Helix showing back up on the scene. One of the things I do like, though, is Jason, while he's in the back seat, isn't totally in the back seat, because when Ronnie puts Helix in that little kind of trap that they've got him in, it's Jason who says, Jason, I can't hold it. We can do this, Ronnie. I'm unmaking him atom by atom, bond by bond. It's taking a little longer. So he's doing the work there. So it goes on. I guess there's a lot of validity to what you're saying, that Ronnie's got this, the outward power set, but Jason's then controlling his power set in the background. Yeah. So it's an interesting relationship. I like having the relationship with the jock and the brainy kind of guy together. I like that it's a tough relationship between the two of them. That philosophically, because of their upbringing and their background and their interests, they don't always see eye to eye. They've learned to respect each other through battle, and they've become tentative friends. I like that there's a question mark there. What is their relationship? And I think that it's more friendly. I don't know if I would call them true friends yet.
But there's definitely the opening for it. And they each respect they're starting to respect and understand the other. That they're not just what they appear to be on the surface. And part of that is they each have their own insecurities, and they're recognizing, okay, this other person who I thought was who I thought I knew, no, there's a little hidden side to them. There's parts of them that I don't understand, that I didn't know before. So I think it's that opening and understanding that they each had towards each other that's going to grow into a solid friendship. It's going to grow into a solid team. And I think the fact that these two now have to work together is going to further help that along. Is going to further make things, a little bit, a better flow for them. But there's still going to be that conflict. There's still going to be that underlining, animosity between the two of them. But it's something that over time is going to grow, and that's something I'm curious to see, this relationship outside of the Firestorm Matrix. I want to see Ronnie and Jason hanging out and understanding each other and getting to know each other a little bit better, because if they know each other, if they know how the other thinks, they can better anticipate the reaction. And you think about the quarterback, he has to know his receivers to be a better, to better anticipate where they're going to be on the field so he can throw it to them. Well, Ronnie's got to better understand Jason and vice versa. So there's definitely going to be some more stories telling about that and that friendship growth.
The whole Megala thing taking over in the current issues, 14 and 15, taking over the Firestorm Matrix. Well, one of the things, when Captain Atom shows up on the scene, and there's the reference to him being on the moon and how it's hardened him, it even kind of seems to reference that it changed his appearance a bit, which I really appreciated that there was some reference to the change, because I was a big fan of the art style, and it was very unique and distinctive on Captain Atom. I'm a fan of Dan Jurgens' art. I like Dan Jurgens' art. But it's clearly, this is a departure from what I was really enjoying with Captain Atom as far as the art styling. So I really respected in the writing there was a reference to the fact that there's a difference to Captain Atom. And, my time away on the moon will do that to you. It will disconnect you from... So, these are things that they're clearly referencing the change. They're not acting like there wasn't a change. There's a storytelling reason for the change. I think that's really important, because for those of us that are fans of Captain Atom, you need to put that in place if you're going to do something where you're moving the character in a little bit of a different direction. I need that sense that the series that I enjoyed had value, that it happened, and that we're not ignoring it. Even though it's a very simple couple lines that direct that, at least there's acknowledgement instead of just saying, bam, this is who Captain Atom is now, forget about what you read before. That acknowledgement is drastically important to me. It eased for me the differences we're seeing from him in this, because there's differences, but it is a hardened character due to his time away and the disconnect. And that part worked for me because there was an acknowledgement. It's funny, I would be saying something very different if there wasn't the acknowledgement. I need those acknowledgements.
Oh, definitely. And, there's the implication on the storyline and the events that happened to him, and his title that drove him away. That did cause this darkness. But then even just the separation from Earth and just, again, I'm completely just nodding my head like an idiot agreeing with you, because this was a must-needed thing. This was a title that I didn't follow my normal pattern. I actually did the art read-through first, and I was skimming through it, looking to it when we were talking to Freddie, because, I saw the different art styles, and I was initially thinking, okay, well, different art team, they're going to change the look. No, it's part of the story, so that actually, my second read-through, when I actually read the words, I was like, oh, okay, this actually helped my appreciation of what I saw before, because going into this, I'm thinking, okay, they're handling them differently. Yeah, fine. No, they're handling them for a reason. It made me accept this person as Captain Atom a lot quicker and a lot easier.
I'm going to jump ahead to something just because I want to address it. We see at the end of this issue kind of the explosion of Captain Atom.
Yeah.
And it's because of the fact that you've got these two immense powers in the DC universe, and the only way, they wind up dissipating because of it. And Atom is split up and broken into shards. One of them is sent to the far future. I'm a Captain Atom fan. So my preference would have been that series continued on. But if they're going to say that we're not going to be using this character in this format anymore, I like the idea that they've done this kind of cyclical legacy, where when he shattered, he became like the Captain Atom of the future, and that those other shards, we don't know what they did yet. I'm hoping those aren't throwaways. I would like to see them appear elsewhere, where you feel like that whole series, everything that he went through, led to this pivotal moment now where they did something with him in Firestorm. And it to me takes that series of Captain Atom that we saw, and hopefully we'll get people to read it, because they'll be like, wow, cool. If I'm a Legion Lost fan, maybe I should see where, Atom's legacy was. So I like that handling. At first I was like, oh, I don't know if I like that they shattered him. But then I started thinking about something like, well, you know what I like about that? They've now created a cyclical legacy for him, that somebody who read Legion Lost and is a Legion fan would then have a reason to go read Captain Atom, because this guy that we've been seeing in Legion Lost is actually a piece of Captain Atom, and there's a chance for him to appear elsewhere later. And I hope that isn't a throwaway, because I think that there would be more opportunities to reference, I think, an underrated series that got lost in the shuffle for a lot of people. And I agree with a lot of Freddie's comments on the last episode we had with him, that is a series that I think it reads very well in multiple issue sittings. So as in a trade format, I think a new audience will really gain some value, who maybe hasn't read this before, that's a Firestorm fan or a Legion Lost fan who never read Captain Atom before, because I think that was neat. Yeah. At first I didn't like it, and afterwards when I started thinking that through, and I'm like, well, but this would reference people back to that series. It became neat to me very, very quickly.
Well, it was funny when Atom was introduced in Legion Lost, and never even remotely thought that this could be Captain Atom. I was thinking this possibly could be somebody else, or other, different characters, or just a character in the Legion lore that I didn't know about, because there's a lot of people out there that I don't know. And seeing that, no, this Atom guy is actually, Captain Atom, the guy that's Nathan. I'm like, oh, that for me that was kind of a neat thing. Now I will agree with you on the fact that I was kind of sad to see the end of Captain Atom because he was such a great character, and I'm hoping that he, with these fragments, we're going to get somewhat of him back. We're going to get something of the character because just that whole nearly almost completely omnipotent creature can tell some interesting stories, and we got those interesting stories in Captain Atom. And it's there was a title I was sad to see go because I was enjoying the path, I was enjoying the journey, and I thought there was still more they could have done with the character. So I'm sad to see him go, but I do like how this story ended. I thought this was a solidly written story that it leaves it open. It doesn't completely end the game for Captain Atom. If there's a creator out there who could maybe use one of these pieces, who could use the Captain Atom of the future that we're seeing that we saw in Legion Lost, there is this character out there. There is this opportunity. And if you're going to get rid of a character, if you're going to end a character, you want to tell an epic story, which they did. This is a truly epic moment, but you want to leave there some wiggle room. You want to leave it so that maybe somebody else can use this character.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy I'm sad to see him go, but I'm happy with how they did it so that they don't completely seal the casket on him.
I think the shards, with the fact that they went to so many different places, opened the opportunity to have him back in different formats. For them to still explore what was set up so well, I think, in that series. So that was the part where at the end I'm like, okay, it opened up possibilities, didn't close anything. Versus sometimes when you get an ending and it's a finality to it, it's really clear that they're throwing everything out the window. I didn't get that vibe from this. I got it as we've left the door open for lots of different possibilities, including now we've attached him to Legion Lost, the concept. And I like that. That part it's not shutting the door, it's opening a different kind of look at him. And I'm cool with that. Just because, to me, again, it references you back to a great series. Versus some of the ones of Manhunter, that's gone now. That series Shield that you and I both liked, is gone now. So, it's great to have this at least referenced back and stuff like that. Megala showing that, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And, where he's remaking Mount Rushmore. And I like that in between these sequences, the sequences that were really important to me in this were Jason and Ronnie and their debates. And when I say debates, they were really two people with two very different outlooks who were sharing their interests, their thoughts, their knowledge in a way like, this is what my experience was during Fury. This is what my experience was as Firestorm. This is what your experience was. And through sharing their brainstorming, they came up with a way to force the issue with Megala. They knew when the opportunity, that slim window opened during the battle with Captain Atom, for them to take control, for them to gradually first start harassing Megala, but then also while keeping Megala off his game, because I think in many ways they helped Captain Atom get the upper hand on Megala. And I kind of like the way that worked out, that they were kind of helping the whole process. Now, I think Captain Atom could have taken him anyway, but I don't know. That's up for debate because you're dealing with two extreme powers, and that's not taking anything from Captain Atom. It's more of a Firestorm and Captain Atom, I think, are two powerhouses in the DC universe. Yeah. So to me, it's a battle that's meant to happen. But I loved seeing the two guys take advantage of the situation, but it was too late. Like when they took over, when they finally gained control, so much energy had been expended. They've all been sent into meltdown. And I think secretly that Captain Atom's sacrifice there was noble, which I think is fitting to the legacy of the character in the sense that he recognized, I have a choice in this moment. I can either let these two get snuffed out or I can get snuffed out. Hopefully, through dispersing like he did, it allows him that rebirth that we've seen from him already. You know what I mean? So I don't look at it as an ending, as there's still room to bring him back. Like, it doesn't have to be a done deal in some format. So that was, and yet it was a noble way that it went about. And I think that's, to me, where the character went in his own series. There was a nobility, because it was even referenced by Eiling in this, the fact that, and Megala, I should say, more than anything, Megala, the fact that Atom couldn't have a relationship, a normal relationship. He tried, and it just wasn't working for him. He was disconnected from the world, which is something we saw explored in there. His current state is references back to his journey in his series. And that was something that I thought was really necessary in this issue for me to connect that this is the same guy that I was reading. Especially with the visual differences that you were referencing, because there definitely are visual differences. I'm glad that there was such an acknowledgement to that, because that's when you do crossovers and you pay attention to those details and you're tweaking things after another series has ended, that's something where you've really got to honor the fans that are big fans of that concept. And I felt that this did that, just with slight nods that I think sometimes people forget to put in. They forget the fan base is there that really cares about this, and I appreciated those little attentions to detail. To say, yes, I'm changing these things, but I don't want to slap in the face the creative team that came before. I want to acknowledge what they did and tell you, bridging-wise, how we got here. I think that's needed in comics. You have to do that, because there's fans of those runs. And I think that creators do that. I think that was cool.
Oh, God, yeah. And the thing I really liked about this issue was the fact that it was a cool, I loved seeing Ronnie and Jason just taunt him and torment him in the head and like, hey, we ain't going anywhere. We ain't gonna, you could just kind of picture a couple high school kids just taunting and tormenting and just, this, I don't know, a level of kind of immaturity, but it's a mature response. It was an active attack on this guy, but it was kind of funny moments. But I really enjoyed the fact that Magella, this character, he really felt like the guy we had in the other issue, in the other story. They really stayed true to that character. They really stayed true to that villain. And when I was reading Captain Atom, I could see that guy becoming this. I could see that guy just having that power complex where he goes and reshapes Mount Rushmore to the greatest minds of the century. And of course he has to include himself because he is the greatest of them all. So I could see that guy doing this stuff. And then just as everything's planned, it was that realism. It was that, yes, we're dealing with this super unbelievable power levels that are godlike powers, but there's still a person in charge of them. There's still a regular person. And as intelligent as Miguel is, he really didn't completely understand the nuances of it. That's why Captain Atom was able to take him. Why Captain Atom was able to do the throwdown and deal with all of his attacks. And in the end, yes, he did do the noble sacrifice, but it was, this is how this battle should have played out. This is the person who won should have won. And I thought that was a great way of handling it.
I like that. Yeah, here's my question to you. When it comes to Firestorm, do you have a preference? Before we had each of them with their own power set and then they made Fury. Now we've got them making this version of Firestorm. Do you have a preference?
I kind of like this. I do like them together in the same body, working together as a team. I like the team dynamic behind it, and just them working together and each of their own strengths, helping the other out and helping the other one through it. It's not to say anything was wrong with the separate things. That was a kind of a cool concept where they each have their own little power set. But for me, this has a good feel to it, and this has a good vibe. And I think we have some really good future possible stories that are going to play out of these two in the same body. And it's not like the two kids who hate each other. There is already now this level of respect. There is this level of understanding for each other. They're not best of buddies, lifelong chums, but there is a common camaraderie that these two will have together, and they will understand they need to work together to do good. And I'm definitely happy with the direction this is going. This has really actually raised Firestorm up on my stack of readability and where I want to go. I want to see what happens next.
Yeah, I was with you. I was enjoying where it was going before. I was enjoying the series. I felt like at a certain point, I think like it wasn't playing out the way it was originally intended, and I don't know how true that is. I was enjoying the book. It was a good book. It really seemed like it needed to finally get a new direction because it kind of lost where it was heading. I would have loved to have seen what the original direction was intended for the book. If I'm right on that, I'm making an assumption, so I want to clarify that right now. Just because you had creative changes on the book, and I think anytime you start doing creative shifts on the concept, you're going to lose parts of the original direction that was meant. And I think that's pretty normal. So there comes a point where you're saying, well, if you're going to do that kind of creative shift and you're going to change the direction, then maybe you need to give it to somebody. And I think that's what they did with the Zero issue. They're like, let's give this book, seeing as we've kind of changed our path here, let's just give this book a new direction. And it went back to something. I always liked Firestorm. I always liked the concept. I liked when the book relaunched with issue 1, with the new 52. The Zero issue kind of reinvigorated me. I think that's kind of a way. With the book, I was enjoying it. It became a good book. I really enjoyed it in the beginning. Then it became a good book, and this reinvigorated me again. So it's kind of been a roller coaster ride. I started off high, then it started to go. Downhill is kind of a strong word, but it went from being a book that was up high for me to kind of middle of the road to now it's going back up high again. So I'm with you. Your comments about how it's going up the stack, I feel like it is for me. Like, I was very into these issues. Really, the focus on the development of the relationship between Jason and Ronnie now with the new status quo, and I want to see where the book heads. So I hope it continues this kind of momentum because I feel like it's heading in a good direction, and I'm glad for that.
Could you just once say, let's get in the car? Is that so hard?
How's it going, guys? This is Brandon Cullen out in New Orleans again. Just wanted to leave a quick couple of comments. I know you guys are going to be talking about the Robins again this week, and, you're touching on my favorite, Dick Grayson. I have to, I guess, give my personal little love letter to Dick Grayson, as it were, when I was a kid. The way I was introduced into Batman was the TV show from the 60s. I grew up in the mid-'80s, and me and my cousin would watch the show, and he was older and bigger, so when we played, he got to be Batman, so that made me Robin, and I always gravitated towards him after that. When I started reading the comics, he was already actually Nightwing in the comics, and Jason Todd was passed on, and Tim Drake was actually Robin when I started reading as a kid, so I was kind of lost for a second. I was like 10, 11 years old, kind of going from the TV show to the comic book, a little confused, but actually kind of loved him as Nightwing. Once I saw that, I was like, oh my God, he's awesome. And then not only was he more cool, cooler, grown up, edgier, he was like Spider-Man. He had a quippy attitude. He was very sarcastic, very funny, very sharp-witted. He still had those traits that you loved about him as Robin next to Batman, just mature and grown up. Instead of becoming Batman, he became what he was supposed to be, I think, a grown-up version of himself. He wasn't supposed to take on the mantle per se just yet. Bruce is still around for that. He was supposed to become his own man, and I think that is his own man. So I've always loved that. To this day in the comics, I love reading Nightwing. And one other comment I wanted to make, this is about, the movies that are going on right now. Batman being over with, the Dark Knight trilogy with Christopher Nolan and all that. They have the big talk of the Justice League movie in 2015, which I'm excited for. I love it. I want to go see whatever they're going to do. I hope whatever it is, it doesn't get rushed because, this movie has been pushed back, put forward, pushed back, and rewritten so many times. I hope they handle it with care and love. I wish they would do kind of the similar thing to the Avengers and bring them all together before the movie instead of trying to introduce them all into one big movie, since, DC movies hasn't really had a great acceptance in the movie audience, with Green Lantern. I personally liked it. I didn't love it, but I did enjoy it, especially the director's cut. I thought it was a lot better when you looked at it in that way. But to get back on the subject, I wish they would release another Batman movie and kind of go the opposite route of the Nolan movies. Not so much the Batman and Robin movie of the 90s, but go with a Batman family movie. Kind of instead of starting at Batman's beginning, start 10 years, 15 years after Batman's already in his career, kind of just like he is in the comics now, Maybe you don't have to do a Damian as Robin and, Tim Drake as Red Robin and all of that, but, have Dick Grayson already being Nightwing, have either a Jason Todd or a Tim Drake as the Robin, have a Batgirl, and kind of make it a big, big spectacular over the top kind of thing like that. That way you're not so much relating back to the Christopher Nolan movies and you're bringing something new to the screen. And I think a Batman like that and, the big fantastic family team organized, working together thing that they would have going on in that movie would work so much with bringing that Batman on board with a Justice League movie, which is why I would kind of hope they would go the slow route and introduce all of these characters kind of before they would bring them into one big movie instead of trying to mesh them in, because I think there's so much they can do with it. And I don't know why I'm just kind of blabbering on right now. I got excited about talking about a Batman movie and a Justice League movie because they're doing so many great things in the comics right now that, I wish that DC would catch up in the movies, because I love Marvel in the movies right now, and, I love what Christopher Nolan did with DC, and like I said, I really liked the Batman, the Green Lantern movie. I think it could have done a lot better. I think if they would have maybe taken their time with it, it would have come out a lot better, as you could tell with the director's cut. So I wish they'd come out and they'd do something great in the movies like that. But anyway, to get back on point, I hope that they do. Anyway, I've rambled on long enough. Have a good one, guys.
It's funny. I think because we've become so used to the Marvel model that they introduce the characters first, we assume that that's the best way to go. I don't know that it is because of what he's saying. Like Green Lantern, I agree with his comments about the Green Lantern director's cut being better than the regular one. I really enjoyed the director's cut. But, it's one of those, I think it has such a stigma to it now, because I think that a lot of people who haven't, and this is part of my problem, once bias is out there, people who haven't seen something have that bias. So there's a lot of people that haven't seen Green Lantern that I've talked to that haven't really even seen the movie that dismiss it. There's a lot of jokes on television now about the Green Lantern movie and stuff like that. So I think in order to escape that stigma, I don't see there's anything wrong with a great Justice League movie introducing the characters and then using those characters after that, using that as a launching point, a prequel, to that movie. I think that would be really, really great. To use that as a way to launch those characters. I don't know if you agree with me, and you might think to yourself, you might be more in tune with him. I'm actually, and let me clarify this, I'm not disputing Brandon. I'm going to go to the theater on opening day for a Wonder Woman movie, for an Aquaman movie. My thing is, there's a stigma, I think, now with Green Lantern, and I thought it was a great movie. Like, I still want to see the sequel. I want to see the Sinestro Corps movie. I think we're not going to see that now.
Yeah, I don't think we'll get that. And I personally, if I were making a movie, I would jump into the superhero already active, already working, and do moments of the origin in either flashbacks or part of the story. I would actually jump right into the action. So I'm on the same page as him, where I would love to see this developed Bat family already in place. Now that's me. That's what I would love to see. I don't think the money people behind Hollywood would ever greenlight that, because they're not worried about the comic book fan who understand the Bat universe, who understand who these heroes are. They're thinking about the everyday average person will be lost and confused and won't go to it. They're thinking of, instead of the comic book fans, the people who understand the character, they're thinking, all these other people won't go. We can't do that. We have to, here's the regular formula, here's what you have to do. You got to show the origin, you got to show this. Plus, they'll also think, hey, we can get multiple issues, we can get multiple movies out of this. So it's the everyday average, person out there they're worried about. Whereas I say, forget that, do something different, launch an established universe, jump right into it. And that's where I'm kind of wondering if that's what they're going to do with the Justice League movie. If they're going to have an established universe already, assume that people know who Batman is, assume that people know who Superman is and Wonder Woman is, and actually have them be in there, have them be an established, cohesive unit already in the beginning of the story. I would love to see that, but I don't think we'll get anything like that.
Or they can do an origin of the Justice League. There doesn't have to be an origin of the characters.
Right,
the heroes
exactly.
are already
Have
established, but there can be an origin of the Justice League. Like the Justice League series, the one that we're currently reading, there was an origin of this team in the beginning of issue 1. But these were heroes that were already established outside of that. So I think you can do it that way. I got some comments on the Batman thing, but it sounds like you got some more you want to say about Justice League. I don't want to derail you.
Well, no, I'm agreeing with what you're saying, where they could do the establishment of the team, but already have the characters in line, already have the characters created. But again, I don't think Hollywood would do that. I think they would see that as too big of a risk. And unfortunately, I'm like, I disagree with them, but what do I know?
You can't. No, here's the thing. I don't think you can do a Justice League movie where you're doing the origin of every single character. Because here's the problem. How do you fit that all in when you get to the Justice League story? You can't.
Yeah.
So I think it has to be an origin of the Justice League as a team. There might be an origin of a single character, like maybe you'll do Cyborg's origin or something. Well, I do know script-wise, I guess they're going to, if it's true, the rumors that I've heard, they're going off of the classic George Perez, Darkseid story, the multiple Earths Darkseid story. I don't know how that.
He's a great villain for it. So
I don't know how that's going to play out, but I'm highly interested in that if that's the case and what they're going for. Back to his Batman thing, I think there would be something interesting. He said they don't have to do Damian. I honestly think they should, and I think that would be the origin you focus on. You do an established Batman, and you use Damian's origin. When you're telling that, as Batman trying to relive his kind of origin mentally, trying to find a way to relate to this kid and finding differences. I think that would be an interesting psychological model where dad's, you see that dad has trouble relating because the upbringing's different, but finding some commonalities in training that Damian's gone through, and maybe them connecting through that, where he thinks his kid's really drastically different from him, but seeing that he could have been that kid. He could have wound up that guy, looking at his origin and pivotal moments that made him not that guy, and trying to teach those things to his son. So I think you can find a clever way to reintroduce Batman's origin by showing the difficult relationship he has with his own son. You're introducing then the origin of both in there in a way that's interesting and unique and different than the way that Batman's origin's been presented previously. And you can acknowledge the legacy of the Robins if you want to in that without necessarily having to have them in there. You can show that there was a history of him having, a partner named Robin, and that one of them moved on and the other one moved on and the one died. That there's a tough legacy to that, and the dangers of bringing his son into that world would be something that I think would be interesting to explore. So I don't know. I think, or you could do the same thing with Batgirl, and do her origin. I think the Damian Bruce Wayne thing I think would be very interesting, because to me a Batgirl almost should be its own movie. Yeah. But I would love to see Damian brought in, because I think Damian's relationship with Bruce is very contemporary, very interesting, and very unique for a movie-going audience. And I think there's something compelling about seeing it. You got to do it in a way where you've got to, in that movie, make Damian likable. But I think you can do it, where you see the kid somehow influenced by dad. I think you can do some of the development that we've seen in the comic with him, and some of the struggles and frustrations that Bruce has in dealing with Damian. And you can make a multiple film series out of that. And it might be a different way to do it. I'm not necessarily saying that's the route they're going to go, but I think there's something neat about that. He makes up an interesting point. I'd love to see more. I agree with him. I'd love to see more prequels, introducing those characters. I just think that they're at the point right now where they're seeing the success of the Avengers. Their characters like Green Lantern and stuff like that didn't launch as successfully as they wanted. So I think that let's get Justice League out there, and then let's do what he's saying. Let's get those characters, then let's get them their own movies. Let's see what characters, because the advantage of putting them in the Justice League, if you're telling a good story, you've got the right director, you've got the right actors, you can see which ones are the breakout characters and, like, fast-track those.
Yeah.
But I also don't want it rushed. I want it done right. You know, if Justice League comes out in 2015 and it's done right, great. That would be a great year because tentatively that looks like when Star Wars is on the slate for with J.J. Abrams. Ooh. And what a summer that would be.
Oh, my God, dude.
Yeah, you know, so J.J. Abrams directing Well, he's already said, though, it will come out when it's ready. Yeah. So I'll wait another year or two for good Star Wars. I'll wait another year or two for good Justice League. See, to me, it's I have patience for this stuff. Like, I'm looking at the Man of Steel trailers, and every time I see something new, I salivate. I want that with Justice League. If I've got to wait an extra year or two to get that, great. I don't want something where I go, oh, God, they needed more time. I don't want that.
Yeah.
I'll wait a year or two to get the woof. You know, the nice part right now for geek culture, we've got a lot of great movies on the slate. If you're a Star Trek fan, amazing Star Trek. Marvel's putting out great films. We got Man of Steel coming down the road. The movies as they go forward, they've got to feel like this. Like this summer coming up's a great summer for Marvel and DC fans, and then, you know, for, you know, sci-fi fans and stuff like that. This is a big summer coming up. I'm excited for that. I want to feel that every summer, and the only way that's going to happen is if they put these movies out and do them right. So I'm excited. Like, it'll keep going like that. I want a new Batman series of movies. I want it done right. Get the right script, the right direction. It can be something Brandon suggests. It could be something you were suggesting. I don't care, or something totally different. Just as long as it's well developed and interesting. I'm geeking out and excited. It's good stuff.
You're so excited, you just can't hide it.
I know.
About to lose control, and you think you like it.
Hi, Sean and Jim. It's Jax calling to say I love your guys' show. Also love the fact that you guys also cover books that sometimes I don't get a chance to pick up every week. It's greatly appreciated, and I love hearing you guys' discussions on the subject. And on the subject of the Batman books, Joker's been absolutely terrifying, and the fact that most of the titles have actually taken great usage of him and just really made him really creepy. It's been great. Love your guys' show, and I'm sending you guys some clicks pretty soon here, hopefully. You guys have a great day. Bye.
Yeah, I want to thank Jack's actually been messaging me a few times, mentioning that he was going to be sending us some hero clicks, which is very generous. Certainly something that I'm not pushing him to do, but it's very nice when people offer to do stuff like that. We really appreciate it. He may, you know, this Joker thing with Batman, I think, is incredibly interesting, and I agree with him there. But he mentioned that we try to cover titles on the show, a diverse range of them, and we really try to do that. We try to stay up with DC's big events, but then periodically we'll stop ourselves and say, hey, we haven't talked about this book in a while, or we haven't talked about this family in a while. That's why we did things like Rot World and stuff like that. We wanted to make sure we're touching on that, and we're going to keep doing that. You know, I want to do a Legion episode down the road. There's a lot of things that we've got to discuss and follow. That's why we're doing Green Lantern coming up. These are books and titles that we want to make sure we're trying to address along the way. It's one of the things when you do books cover to cover, you know, it takes us a little bit longer sometimes to get to them, but hopefully when we get to the book that you like, we do a fulfilling segment for you where it feels like you know, there's something of value and substance there to the book that you're enjoying, or maybe the one that you haven't been reading that you wanted to know something about, like Jack's mentioning. And I think that's cool. So I appreciate the comments and kind words.
Hey, Sean and Jim, this is Eli again from New York City on the cold, frozen streets, having just walked out of a special screening, advanced screening of Batman: The Dark Knight Returns Part 2. And I have to say, it was not having seen Part 1, which is my own fault, this one was really one of the more different ones. It's very good, very dark, very violent. It was a particular, the Batman, in this one, Joker is revealed, finally. He comes in as a character, and there's a very violent fight scene between Batman and Joker. So much, in light of recent events, I found it very disturbing to watch it unfold. But if it was meant to be effective that way, it certainly was. And I certainly don't mean to turn anybody off on it, but it was especially has added meaning today, seeing it play out like that on the screen. Very well done, very well done. And then Superman is introduced in this film. I guess he wasn't in Part 1, but he certainly is, and he makes a very great appearance here. The final scene, the final battle between Batman and Superman was tremendous. It was so well done. The animation was so good. Peter Weller as Batman was excellent. I don't recall the name of the guy that played Superman. I just don't remember his name, sorry. But the action in this film was up to par with anything they've done. But the tone being just really slightly different than other dark ones. Like Under the Red Hood, I found was a very dark film. This one, different and even more dark. Batman Year One was dark as far as the DC films. But this one was really resonated with me in light of, like I said, in light of recent events. Very evocative and had a visceral reaction to seeing it play out. But again, the DC films putting out some quality work. This is certainly is up there with any of the better ones they've made. And Peter Weller is I think, is an excellent Batman. And Ollie Queen makes an appearance. One Arm Oliver Queen makes an appearance, and he's great. And it was just, I hope you guys are get a chance to see it and give it a full-length review. So now my fingers are now frostbitten, and I will say goodbye. All right, take care.
I'm geeking out that he got to go to that preview. I think that's really cool. Even Ian Levinstein, I think, went to maybe the same one or something similar. And I think that's really cool that they do those events. I wish they do something in our area, because I would be there in an instant. I think that's fantastic. I have seen both of them. Actually, Jim and I, this is a good time to announce this. At the end of March, and with Jim and I have a pace set up that we're going to make this happen, we will hit episode 350. That will be also our 7-year anniversary of doing the podcast. So we're kind of looking at, we try to, when we hit our anniversary of the show episodes, we try to do something special from DC, classic, epic that we haven't done before. And one of the things we realized with the release of that, because he was mentioning certain themes that were in The Dark Knight Returns, and they're things that were in the original graphic novel. So these are, I think that's what they were going for. But I do think that some of those themes, like he's mentioning, resonate in sometimes a scary way and with things that were going on today. So I get the reaction that he was having. It was fun. I was connecting with a lot of what Eli was saying when he was talking about it. But you and I were talking about how we haven't done Frank Miller, other than we talked some of the issues of All-Star Batman and Robin, but we haven't done things like Year One. We haven't done things like The Dark Knight Returns, the comic, and now the DVD series. We also haven't done The Dark Knight Strikes Again. And one of the cool things about that is you've never read The Dark Knight Strikes Again.
No, I haven't.
Did you read Year One?
I have, but it's been so long that I don't remember it.
Strikes Again is very controversial. And Year One is a classic. Dark Knight Returns is a classic. I haven't read Year One in a long time. Dark Knight Returns I started reading again recently, and then I started thinking about it. I'm like, well, this would be a great episode. So that's what we're going to do for 350. We're going to do Frank Miller's Year One. We're going to do Dark Knight Returns. We're going to do what we did, for anybody that's been a long-time listener, that when we did the New Frontier release, where we compared the graphic novel with the film. We're going to do the same thing with Dark Knight Returns, and we're gonna talk about like things that were there things that we liked better in the graphic novel, or things we liked better on the film. How did it handle the material? And then we're going to talk about Dark Knight Strikes Again. It's going to be big, or it's either going to be one huge single-parter, or it's going to be a two-parter, depending on it. But
or
I think it's
three-parter.
Yeah, it's epic material. No, it's going to be two-parter. I guarantee it's at the most, because we'll make them huge if we have to. But it's great material that we have to touch on, and I think it's something worthy of that time frame. So that's what's coming up for 350. So just to kind of let you guys plan ahead on it. But I want to thank Eli for calling. I want to remind everyone that our show voicemail line is 1-440-388-4434, or Dr. Norge on Skype, and I love having you a part of the show. So please consider participating in that. We always have that on RagingBullets.com. It's always in the show notes and stuff, too. So thanks again.
I'm going to need something to wear in a very big truck.
Sure. Anything else?
I'll need some guys. Not these guys, because, well, they're kind of dead.
I want to shout out social media on RagingBullets.com. If you go to RagingBullets.com, you get links to Google+, our Facebook group, and our Facebook page and stuff like that. And I just want to shout out Twitter and all that social media. Every week I post show information to ragingbullets.com, and it goes to Twitter. I also post regularly to our Facebook group. Actually, what I've started doing with our Facebook group, and I'm going to try to keep doing this because people seem to be having an interest in it, I'm going to post upcoming show topics just to give people an opportunity to give some kind of feedback, things that they might want us to shout out on the show. I prefer our voicemail lines a lot of time because it's a great chance in this audio medium to have your voice be a part of that discussions, and you've heard that on this episode. But sometimes there's an opportunity as well in our Facebook group to drum up discussion there. In our Facebook group, I also want to shout out, though, just the great discussion crew that are there. People will start topics all the time, both in and out of DC. Please consider going there, joining the group, posting your blogs, podcasts, anything that you're associated with, comics that you're doing. We'd love to share in that community aspect. And if you're a fan, I'd love to see discussion topics. What do you want to talk about? What favorite book are you enjoying? Somebody just started a post about Justice League Dark. You know, it's one of their favorite books right now. I geek out at that kind of stuff just because it's great to see fans sharing a love for the medium. And I just want to shout out anybody who's a part of the group because I'm geeking out. Even if I'm not a part of a discussion topic, I just happen to see it. It's great to see those discussions going on, and I really love being a part of this community. So, again, just a shout-out to the great fans and friends of Raging Bullets that we've made over the years. As we mentioned on this episode, we're coming up on our 350th show, which is going to be at the end of March. Jim and I are kind of setting a pace for ourselves to try and make that happen. And it's been a great 7-year ride so far, and I'm really excited for delivering a special episode to hit 350, just as kind of a way to landmark that for all of us. And I just want to appreciate the whole community. Whether you've been listening since the beginning, you're a casual listener, or you're a new listener, it's just great to have you a part of the show community. Once again, sponsoring us this episode is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Be sure to stop by DCBService.com in the coming week to see all of the new deals they're offering for February. Remember, they're a Comixology digital partner and earn that 5% of each of your purchases towards shopping at DCBService.com. Over at InStockTrades.com, check out the amazing deals on trades and hardcover, like the Justice League hardcover, Volume 2, Villain's Journey that I mentioned. Collect 7 through 12 of the series. You can get that for $12.49. It's a $24.99 book at 50% off. It's just a great deal. If you've missed something, or you were like, hey, this month isn't good in my budget for trades and hardcovers, maybe the following month is, save up, get that $50 free shipping. I mean, it's great because not only are you getting the 50% off, you're saving on shipping as well. It really makes that 50% exactly 50%. So it's a great deal for you. So please consider shopping over there and supporting our show sponsors. Our next episode, Jim, we are going to focus on it's our bonus episode, actually. We're going to focus on some of the comics that we're enjoying to read outside of the DC universe. Every 5th episode, we're going to be doing one of these bonus shows where we kind of step outside of our normal hat in Raging Bullets. And this one, a lot of times people ask us, what do you guys read outside of DC? So we figure periodically we'll do an episode where we just kind of casually rant and rave about some things, speeding bullet style, that we're enjoying outside of DC. We're going to do about an hour episode or so, just talking about that, and that'll be our next one. Then we're going to jump back after that with a Green Lantern focus show, because it's time to really take a look at that Rise of the Third Army again and really talk about that. Did you also pick up that Threshold series?
Yes, I did.
So I think we'll talk about that as well, if we could, because that's related to the whole Green Lantern universe. So we'll have we're going green right after our bonus show. And we are doing the Raging Oscars. People have been asking about that. The reason why we haven't done it yet is Jim and I have really been talking a long time about this, and we're formulating it. We want to do something a little different. Every time we do it, we try to do something themed that just kind of feels unique to the experience that we're currently having reading comics. So we haven't really done a hits and what we've been missing and things like that from the New 52. So I think it'd be kind of fun to do this kind of overview general of what we're really loving about the New 52. But I thought it'd also be fun to talk about what kind of things, because we've seen a lot of series along the way that have ended. And also, I think it'd be fun to talk about maybe some characters and concepts we haven't seen yet in the New 52 that we'd like to see. So I think we can kind of incorporate that all into a Raging Oscars focusing on the New 52 in categories. And I know we've been brainstorming ideas. We're formulating it. We're going to be doing that in late February, early March. So we've got that on the slate. So don't worry, that is something we're going to do, which is kind of around Oscar time anyway. with that, we will see everyone in a few days with the bonus show. See you then.
Bye.
Flying through space and time, 1,000 different lifetimes. Faded for love and flaws and incredibly clear sightlines. Swinging your mace around, such a practical outlook. Helping the JSA and occasionally supporting your own book. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see. Hawkman, your plan and what you do to me. Hawkman. The villains are closing in, be they Thanon Guard or Egyptian. Working so hard to thwart you and Hawkgirl's mission. The odds are not on your side, and danger seems to stack up. Things would be so much easier if you would just call for backup. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see your plan